All right, so my podcast this evening is with Karin Tryon. That's how you pronounce it? Tryon. And Karin is a rep for an airgun company, which I was really interested in. Like I love guns, but I love guns in a different way than some of the people that love guns today. Like some of the people online and the social media stuff. Like I appreciate everybody who tunes in. I hope that they get something out of it. I hope that they can be open-minded and listen to different points of view and stuff like that. But, immediately when we were posting that the podcast was coming up, and I was super excited about it, because it'll be a fun topic for me to talk about. They immediately take this stance of, there's going to be this battle between these two people. We're going to get it on. And, that's not really what I'm interested in. What I'm interested in is... there's people that I genuinely like to engage with on social media, and you're one of them. Like, I can have a conversation of back and forth with you, and it doesn't get goofy. It doesn't get, I've had people that, I am carrying a gun, and I will see you something like, oh, my God, are you fucking kidding me? You're threatening me like this. I go, you've lost the debate, so I guess...
Those people don't represent me.
Right. No, I know. We talked about that. There are some people on there that don't represent you, and I would much rather have someone with I think that your voice is probably a benefit towards the gun situation, but not in a way. These people that are so rigid, my views on guns are you better bend or you're going to break sort of a situation. If you're so rigid that nothing can happen because slippery slope or whatever other nonsense talking point goes on, you're going to break because sooner or later, and I think that, I don't know how much you're paying attention to it, but I pay a little bit of attention to it, and it seems like the climate's getting a little weird. Like it's getting a little bit where I think that things that are gaining support that didn't have support maybe 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I think that things are going to change, and I personally don't want them to change in a way like I don't believe that AR-15 should be banned. Now maybe this would be a more intense conversation if I had this strong view like that. But that's not how I feel about the situation. Now, I don't feel like those guns should be on the street, though. I think that there needs to be something, I think that there's got to be a middle ground. There's got to be a way for if people enjoy shooting their AR-15, shooting a semi-automatic rifle, that they should be able to do that, and we should be able to somehow reduce the fact that a guy can go into Dayton, Ohio, and shoot 9 people in 30 seconds. Because 30 seconds and the cop was there and 9 people were already shot. So the gun is...
But you can do that with any handgun.
And I agree. And I agree to a point. You can do a lot more damage with that AR-15. The longer barrel creates a more velocity, and it's a more accurate round at further distance than something that's got a 6-inch barrel on it. That's my ballistics.
Not necessarily true. I mean, it is an easier...
Ballistically, that's true. I mean, if I'm going to shoot a sniper, they don't shoot handguns because the round's not as accurate at distance.
Right. Well, I mean, what kind of distance are we talking about?
No, well, I mean, even a handgun, even at 30 yards, isn't as accurate as a, 223 round in a 22-inch barrel.
That's true. There's less recoil.
Right. I mean, it just, for me, and then, I mean, you can also, the balance of the gun, you're probably a little more accurate as far as shooting because it's not moving around on you, right? The recoil situation. Mm-hmm. In my mind, and, explain to me how I'm wrong, that weapon, I'm a guy who grew up hunting, and when I see those weapons, I'm like, that's not I'm looking for something with a wood stock. I went into
You're old school.
Okay, we can say that. Yeah, that's fine. I don't care how it goes. I'm old school to the point of I think it's absolute pussy to go hunting and shoot more than one shell at one pheasant. It's just, what are you doing? This isn't that difficult. We're shooting a shotgun. The pattern opens up like a fucking basketball, 20 yards from me. Take a breath, wait a second, shoot the damn bird, and that's it. And my objective when I go out to hunt is I want to go for a walk with my dog, and I want to shoot 2 pheasants that afternoon, and then I want to eat pheasant and wild rice with wine sauce that evening. That's my objective for the day. If I take someone out and they're just shooting all over the damn place, I'm never going out with them again. I'm going to get shot. Like, what are you doing? But I had a farmer who approached me, and he's like, yeah, I hear you do a lot of hunting. I do. I was doing a job for him. And he's like, I got a coyote problem. And this guy had a hog operation outside of Manhattan. Like, big hog operation, like 1,000 head of hog. So in the wintertime, or in the summer, or whenever it is, they have this big pit that they dig, and just when you have 1,000 of anything, shit dies. So they take it out there and they throw it in a pit. Well, winter comes, the fence that's around the pit gets a snowdrift. The coyotes walk up the snowdrift. They're eating porksicles all winter long. So there's like 25 coyotes all over this guy's property all the time. He's like, there's too many. I got to get rid of them. And I'm like, that's fine. I set a tree stand up, went out there, and they're going to walk down my hedgerow to get to this pit. And I shot 18 coyotes in that year. Now that was I'll give hunters a tip. I would take pictures of those coyotes hung up off the porch, and then I would show that to other farmers and be like, hey, I'm really prolific I'm good at this coyote thing. But can I take a couple of pheasants for dinner when I go out there and shoot coyotes? And I always got permission. I got permission in spots that neighbors would pull up and be like, what the fuck are you doing here? I've been asking this guy to hunt here for years. I've known him since I was 8 years old. He won't let me hunt here. And I'm like, I'm hunting here. And I got written permission by Leslie, and here it is. And he's like pissed at the neighbor. But, I'm going to take the coyote too if I get him, but I'm really there to pheasant hunt. That's what I'm doing. So I went into Mega Sports, and I'm like, hey, I'm shooting this 22 rifle at these coyotes, and I'm shooting from an elevated position, so I feel comfortable that I'm shooting into the ground, like nothing's going to go wrong. In Illinois, it's illegal to shoot. You can't shoot a 22 because everything's so flat. That round carries and carries and carries. But I feel like I'm pretty safe. I'm on private property. But I wanted to get a 223 to shoot, and I wanted just a wood one, maybe 5-6 rounds. I don't need more than that because I'm going to shoot what I'm going to shoot. And the guy turns around and hands me this thing I'm like, no, what? I'm not gonna wage an assault on Hill 223. Like, what the hell is going on here? And he's like, what do you mean? And I'm like,
what's the difference?
The difference is I don't, that to me it looks preposterous. It looks douchebag.
Okay.
I don't need
looks.
I know. I got it. But for what my purposes, I don't need to. This is right. I get what you're saying. I don't need to put a 30 round clip in it either. Like, that's not going to be necessary for me at any point in my hunt. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can carry 2 clips, or I can do it that way, right? I can put 2 magazines in my little bag when I go out.
Yeah, absolutely could. Yeah.
Right. So that's just my position on it, right? So, and I understand completely, and hopefully some people there's people on both sides of this argument that want to argue about it that don't know what the fuck they're talking about. There's people that want to argue with you and they don't have any ballistics idea as to what they think that an AR-15 is, an assault rifle number 15, and it's there to, like, somehow this is more powerful than another 223, and it's not. It's the same gun. It's the round you put in it. Correct?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I lost.
No, you're all right.
What did you say?
I said, the round is what matters. Like, I can buy a 223 rifle that's got a wooden stock and a little tiny clip on it, and I can put full metal jacket, hollow tip rounds, and I can do a whole lot of fucking damage. But I could also put field rounds in there, and I'm not going to do a whole lot of damage. I'm just going to kill what I'm going to shoot and stuff like that.
Right.
So, the round matters more than the weapon that it's coming out of, because you could change out the barrels in an AR-15 too and put a different caliber round in it.
There's multiple calibers.
Right. An AR-10's like a 22 round or something like that. So, I mean, I understand that the weapon isn't necessarily the problem. My problem with the weapon is if you in the right hands you can put, how many rounds can you put in?
It sounds like more of your problem with the weapon is the magazine capacity and the looks.
Yeah,
looks
exactly.
shouldn't even be in.
It is for me.
You know.
I'm there to hunt. I'm not there to like I don't know. It's like an urban assault. Like
But it's just everything is so accessible. With them, everything is right there.
right.
It's
And I
very
think they're-
lightweight. It's 7 pounds.
Right.
Very lightweight, very maneuverable. You can't hate it because its looks. I think its looks are beautiful.
Right. I got you. I get it, and
But,
I don't. I hate is a big word. I don't
think
necessarily hate it.
I think more of a problem that you're having with them is the 30-round mags.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, I see no. Now, okay, so let's keep it in context, though. Well, we're just talking about hunting. I have no problem with a 30-round magazine if you're at a shooting range and that's what you're there to do is shoot paper targets or Hogan's Alley, however you're doing. Like, that's all fine. Like, I think that there's a place for that. So that's why I said I'm not for banning a weapon, but if we're living in a country where we're trying to make everybody happy and we're trying to be safer, and I think it's important for gun enthusiasts to have a safe thought about this, because if these mass shootings weren't happening, we wouldn't be having these conversations, right? I mean, there wouldn't be people up in arms, pissed off that these guns were on the street.
Well, I think a lot of the sensationalism about these kids that are taking these weapons from wherever they're getting them from,
right,
are made into kind of icons for all of our depressed kids, and their faces are all over the media, and I think the media has a huge reason
I agree,
why
100%.
there's copycats. And ARs account for less than 0.5%.
Right, but that to me that's not an argument,
homicides.
right? That's like saying
yet ARs are the ones that are continuously
yes. No, I think they're getting a bad rap, but I think that the looks of it help. It's a really sexy looking thing on the news.
You can't,
right? Or no? I mean, it looks like
they're beautiful.
Right, but
you may think something else is beautiful,
right?
But I think they're beautiful.
Right. So I have a love for guns that comes from an engineering aspect of the gun. I love that you can take a gun, if you know what the drop is at the yardage and everything else with the gun, that you can place a round within the 50-cent piece at 100 yards with this thing that was engineered. I think that's awesome. I think that's really cool that you can do that.
I mean, after you sight it in, which takes a little
Absolutely.
time.
I've been there.
You can't
right.
just go from shooting targets to shoot at 20 yards to shooting bullseyes at 100.
No, absolutely not. And you'd have to adjust for the drop of the round and everything else. And I mean, for me, like, so I grew up with, father was a Marine, and we grew up with guns and ammo books on the tables all the time. You could always look up, like, what a .223 round at 40 yards the drop is. So then you calibrate your sights for that. I grew up deep into this. And I grew up, like I said, with a father who was a combat Marine in Vietnam. And when he would see somebody with one of those guns, he was still like, no, that was it. And all I'm doing is giving you the point of view from the culture that I grew up in. It was very much about hunting. It was very much about, you don't need, like, I was 6 years old. And I got the breech load, it's got a 22 round on top. It's got a 410 round on the bottom. And I got to walk around with it breeched. It was opened up. Shotgun shell, little tiny shotgun shell in my pocket. And when we would walk up and then there would be a rabbit or something, my dad's like, all right, Billy, put the round. I could take the round out, put it in the thing, close it, and then try and shoot the rabbit at 6 years old. And then every year on from there, I got like an advancement. So the next year I got to walk with the shell in the gun, but still breached. Then the next year when I'm 8, I got to walk with the gun with the shell in it, but not cocked. You know what I mean? So like he was just being as safe as possible. And as a
you
little
were taught that responsibility.
super responsibility.
Young.
So my feelings about guns are completely different than the gun culture that I see on social media. I see people that feel like they are safer when they're around guns. I feel the opposite. I'm on alert when I'm around guns. When guns are in the room, when we're cleaning guns, when we have the guns out for a trip or something like that, I am on my toes to know exactly what's going on because I don't feel safe. I know what that can do to every animal I shot. And growing up, we shot a shit ton of animals. I mean, it's 2 pheasants a day. The ducks are by points. Like, there was, I shot 18 coyotes in one winter.
See, I can't do that. I can't shoot coyote.
See, I tell you what, I have never shot anything in my life. Never. From the first animal to the 900th animal that I shot, that I didn't feel a little twinge of like. Now the pheasant.
Too much like a dog.
It is. It's so much like a dog, but it's not a dog.
Right.
Like this is not a dog. If this saw you and you were like bleeding and laying there, it would probably chew on you. So like it's not a dog at all. But it looks just like a dog, and I'm a dog guy. You saw my golden when we came in. And I've had hunting dogs since I was a little tiny guy. But I've always had that twinge of like this animal was doing whatever it was doing all on its own. I showed up today and I killed it. But the pheasants and the ducks, I ate every single one of them. And the coyotes, they were a nuisance to this farmer, and this farmer was going to let me hunt pheasants and stuff like that. So I was doing him a service by this, and he wasn't wrong. I got out there. There was 25 coyotes heading for this pit every morning, and nature is a ruthless, ruthless place. I shot some coyotes, took them back, had them pelted. I shot some coyotes, took pictures of them. I shot other coyotes and left them there. 2 days later, I come back, and there's no coyote there anymore.
Oh, yeah.
They took them. So, I mean, the coyotes ate the coyote. So, I mean, that's nature.
Well, were they hassling the live
You know what? I don't know. I think that the guy was nervous about it, and I know there were other farmers there that have chickens and all that stuff. And I
chickens, yeah.
also heard stories. I don't know how true they are because I don't worry about even my golden, who's 75 pounds. Mm-hmm. A really big coyote is about 40, 45 pounds. That's it. Like that. They look a little bigger because they got one hell of a winter coat on them. But they're not enormous animals by any stretch of the imagination. Every hunting dog we ever had. I grew up with English Springer Spaniels. They probably only go about 50 pounds. Biggest Duke was our dog, and he is 50 pounds at best. He would see a coyote and be like, "It's on, motherfucker," and he was after him. So, like I'm not worried about my dog, but I did hear people I've heard people that are older German shepherds and stuff that were killed by coyotes, and definitely you got like a Yorkie. Oh, it's that's lunch. One of my calls for coyotes was a puppy. So, and here comes the coyote. Here, puppy. Here, and they're going to get it and kill it and eat it. Yeah. So, that's nature. That's how it goes. I get that. My views on everything are pretty liberal, pretty progressive on everything except for guns. I mean, I'm glad the Second Amendment, is what it is. I giggle when somebody tells me that they're going to overthrow the biggest military force the planet has ever seen with their guns from Walmart. That's a silly thing. Just stop talking like that. Mm-hmm. Because the problem also in that situation is a psychological one. You're a 40-some-odd-year-old man saying these silly things. There's going to be a 19-year-old boy who the government, the people that are in charge of him, have told him, you're a problem. You need to be shot, and that kid will shoot you. They've done it in every single war that's ever existed. They've dehumanized the Vietnamese, the Chinese, the Japanese, the Germans. Shit, Germans, I'm German. I look just like a damn German. But they got American boys. My grandfather is a 101st Airborne World War II guy. His brother Richie died on the beach at Normandy. They were shot by Germans. They are German. Their father was from Germany. Mm-hmm. So they convinced that to happen. There's no doubt they could convince someone, Ruby Ridge, to come shoot those people because they have told them that. The chances of the guy who thinks he's in a militia and he's going to overthrow the government getting shot versus the chance of the guy in the tank getting shot they're pretty uneven. So I don't, when someone says that's not a valid point. I wish I could find some validity to the super Second Amendment crusaders that I see on social media. And the problem I also have with them is they always come out right when 18 kids got killed. And I'm like, no, not today. Like, can you just wait a couple weeks? Or I understand nowadays you have no time. Like, there's always 5 more days, there's another shooting or something like that. There's too many shootings, and not all of them are AR-15s. And I'm with you. Very little of them, right? Which, that to me is not a point. That's like saying, this car only kills so many people. You could still drive it. Well, you don't want to drive that car either. So I equate the AR-15 to a race car. It is way more, like you said, everything's at hand, everything's light. If you had the mindset, or okay, say you were in a situation where, you had to choose a weapon and you were going to use it in a war situation, but you had to choose one of those weapons. It's a AR-15 or
I'll choose an AR-15 for any scenario.
Right, I got you, but it's a better. It's designed for that. It's got every. I mean, I've seen them. They do look. I've seen them in your hand. They look spectacular, but when somebody who that has nothing to do with guns, didn't grow up with them and all that other stuff, sees that, they see a death machine. They see Rambo. It's
no more of a death machine than any other gun.
I understand that. I do. I get it. And I'm not making that point. I'm saying the look. When we were talking about the looks of it, the looks are part of the problem for the perception.
So make them less scary looking?
No. I don't think so at all. I think no. So okay. So my
I don't think they're scary looking at all.
Right. My point of view, or my solution to that situation is, because I don't think it's going away. In fact, I think from watching what's been going on, and even Trump, he just kind of does this and like checks the wind. If popular, he's a populist, and populists are dangerous because if the majority of people say that they want those things off the street, then he'll be behind putting them off the street, and then you've got a problem because then they're off the street. Why not have it where the times that you've shot an AR-15, where'd you shoot it?
Oh, in Texas, hunting.
So on a farm,
at a range.
Right.
I go to the range quite a bit.
Yeah.
That's basically it. Competition.
Mm-hmm. So safe environment.
Range again. Yeah, controlled, safe.
Sure.
Environment.
What do you do with your guns when you're not using them?
When I'm not using them, they're in Pelican cases. They're not locked, but the ammo I keep stored in cans. And
is that locked?
You know what? They're not locked, but
no kids around though.
There's no kids around.
Well, that makes a big difference.
If there are going to be kids or people over, I will throw a lock on the case.
No, that's smart. Makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, I'm home alone a lot, so I want to have, if something goes wrong, I want to be able to access those weapons quickly.
Right. Now, we talked about my gun background.
I do keep one loaded magazine close by.
Okay, that's fine. Right, because you think that that's a self-defense.
Mm-hmm.
See, for me, guns are horrible for defense, but they're awesome for offense. So if it's in your hand and you're on offense, well, it's efficient. If it's in the small of your back, and even in a concealed carry situation, mm-hmm. Police videos will show you that within 20 feet, it's not. Like, you're going to lose. And if I'm so, how tall are you?
I'm 5'10".
5'10". You're tall woman. I'm a 6 foot tall guy. Okay, mm-hmm. I have a background of fighting and boxing, mm-hmm. and trained to do these things.
Right.
When I have these conversations, I've had this conversation with a couple of friends of mine who are, there's concealed carry guys and everything else, and I'm like, listen, if we can get a baseline of facts, let's have a discussion, but let's get a baseline of facts. I'm like, who was more of an animal growing up, me or you? And they're like, well, you. And I'm like, all right, fine. So if my objective is today, and I don't have a gun, is I'm going to get the gun that I know you have, right? But you don't know I'm coming. You're in trouble because I'm going to get you to the ground and I'm probably going to get that gun out before you can get that gun out. Because I know you're carrying it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that this guy's got a gun. I know where he's carrying it. I'm going to get it. He weighs 135 pounds. I'm 195 pounds. I'm going to overpower him in this situation. Now, if my objective was I thought this guy had $2,000 on him and I was going to rob him of that $2,000, then I find out in the process of tackling him down to get the $2,000, he's got a gun. In my mind, he just upped the ante from taking a beating and losing $2,000 to probably getting shot. So, you know, and I've been in fight situations where a guy had a bat or a pipe and the guy he was going against was an animal, and when the guy that was an animal got the pipe, he broke the guy's arm, or you know what I mean? Like he did more damage. So this guy would have just gotten a couple smacks in the face. He would have got a broken nose. Now he's got a broken arm to go along with all that shit because he had a pipe. So like you're up in the ante in that situation is all I'm saying. You know what I mean? So like a good defense would be a bulletproof vest because that's defense. I've got that on. I don't have to do anything to change this situation. It's a shield from the situation. So that's defense. Now, if I'm in a situation where I want to be offensive, I've got the gun drawn, I walk into the grocery store, and I start shooting. I'm on offense. Works out great, right? The guy in Dayton shot 9 people in 30 seconds. So that's how I see it. Now, like, you know.
And that was with a handgun.
Yes, right.
Well, this is...
Right, the AR-15, like I said, I have
the AR-15 would not have been concealable in that kind of a scenario.
Sure, right.
So I think anybody walking up to a store carrying an AR-15 would have probably been intercepted before, unless they were wearing a trench
coat. Right. Which they have. I mean, there's the situations that AR-15 was used. You know, they did conceal it for a certain. The Aurora guy, I want to say, in the theater had an AR-15. And he got into the theater with it. You know what I mean? It was a dark place, and you know everything else. Like he planned it out to do what he was going to do, and it was a shitty thing. But I still did. I never, you know, I don't know anyone, and I have seriously like. So I started talking about this podcast a while back, like, and I went on a bunch of Facebook pages that were like Mothers Against Guns and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, listen. I'm looking for someone to have a conversation. I don't personally hold these views. I'm a progressive guy, but when it comes to guns, I have a love for guns. I really do. But I'm looking for someone with views that you want to take my guns. And I could not find one person that was willing to, like, that said I'm that person. And then even that said I'm that person and I don't want to talk, I couldn't find anyone that was like, I want to remove all guns. That AR-15 looks like something that is it. You can't say it doesn't look more deadly. It looks more dangerous to me, at least. I'm a guy with the Benelli Nova that is fully camoed for goose hunting.
I would be much more afraid of somebody coming at me with a shotgun. I'm not going to lie, because that's just devastation.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
And for me, I would actually have probably a higher survivability rate being shot with an AR than I would if I'm
depending on the round.
Shotgun.
Right, depending on the round. I mean, if they put a hollow point in there, there's just something the size of a grapefruit that's going to come out the backside of you, right? Or no? A hollow point does some damage.
Into what?
If I shot you in the guts with a hollow point .223 round, something the size of a grapefruit's coming out the back of you. I mean, I know this because we used to shoot watermelons.
Absolutely,
and,
but
know.
Put a deer slug in a...
Yep, shotgun. It's divoted out in the front, the same exact. No, I agree. I'm not. Right. I don't have a complex with the AR-15 or any weapon that looks like that. I think that there's a time and a place for that. I don't think it's hunting. Like that to me is preposterous.
But for you, it's all about the looks. You're still.
It isn't. Well, it's the looks. It's the fact that there is available a 30-round clip for it. The Remington that I'm shooting, the 22 or the 223 that I'm shooting, Six round magazine's the best you can do. That's it. So that's because this weapon's designed to hunt with. I mean, I knew guys that hunted with, they had to have some sort of impairment or something, or they had a bad shoulder or something, for them to be shooting an automatic shotgun and get away with it around other hunters. Because we would just be like, that's shitty. Pump the fucking thing. Like, what are you doing? In a duck situation, that's a situation where you're waiting for multiple ducks to come in. So a couple rounds is fine, but you're not just like willy-nilly just blah, 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 blah. And in Illinois, you're only allowed 3, your choke tubes are in, so you're only allowed 3 rounds anyway.
Yeah.
So, and then, I mean, like...
You're only allowed 3 rounds
3 chamber
in a shotgun in Indiana. So
Indiana,
for deer hunting.
Okay, right. So, I mean, that, and to me, that's fine. I would never use the more round, like... Hunting to me is like a sacred thing. It's like a thing where, okay, I'm here to harvest an animal, and the last thing that I want to do, the very last thing that I would like to do, is to wound an animal. So I'm not taking a shot until I know that's my shot. Like, I've got a kill shot. And the other bitch of the deal is deer. If I shoot that thing just a little bit off, I gotta go chase it for like 2 miles.
Exactly. So, and you don't have that problem with an AR-15.
Right, I guess. What you're saying is that an AR-15 and a .223 rifle are the same ballistically. It's just the capacity. I don't need that capacity. I'm never gonna breach 5 rounds.
You can buy a 10-round magazine.
Sure. I get it. I couldn't.
Actually, in Chicago, you're only allowed 10 rounds.
Yeah, right. That's the biggest magazine.
And yeah, California as well.
Right.
But they're readily available.
Absolutely. So some of the stuff that I saw that drives me absolutely up the wall is so if we had this conversation and you just had a list of all of the nonsense talking points that the NRA puts out, you could read them, and then I could read all the rebuttals to all those points, and even if my rebuttals were nonsense, everybody that thinks that guns should all be gone or that AR-15 should be banned, they'll all just agree with me, and then all your talking points, even though, I'm sorry, most of the NRA talking points, they're nonsense. You can't say, well, only 409 people were killed with AR-15s this year, but 409 people there's still 409 people that had families of, hundreds of people out from there that are upset about that. And if that's their target, then there needs to be something that's done to change the perception of the gun. And maybe this conversation is that sort of a thing. Maybe the things you'll say will do that. Or make it a situation where that gun, my solution is, and I mean, maybe it's a bad solution, is that there's countries that have gun laws that there really aren't guns. Like Great Britain, there aren't guns on the street the way that there's guns on the street in America. They're very, very much harder to come by. They still have sporting clubs. They still have ranges. You can go there, you can check it out of a locker, shoot the gun, and then check the gun back in. Now the gun is available to you anytime you want to go to the club and shoot the gun in a safe environment, but it's not ever possible for it to be in the wrong hands or on the street.
I'm not familiar with
but the scenario I'm giving you is, I want people to be able to have that gun. I'd like people to be able to test into like I said, an automatic machine gun. If that's what made them happy. My thing is freedom. So one man's freedom is another man's cage. I don't personally want to live in a country where everybody's walking around with an AR-15 slinged over their shoulder to go get the groceries.
I think that's excessive myself.
Right, but I mean, you see it on the news where some guy's like, at a convention, he's walking around with a sling and the gun.
No.
Listen, that's not freedom for me. That puts me on edge. I don't need that shit because, listen, even if you think you're a good guy, that .223 round is high velocity. It will go through shit. I think that's an awful self-defense or, offense. Self-offense is really good. Self-defense is terrible because if I'm shooting at who I think is the culprit or the perpetrator, and I miss him, and I'm in a crowd, that round carries.
Well, yeah, you're responsible to know your surroundings.
Absolutely.
Of your target.
Right.
And,
So, I mean, for me, the better defense weapon is a shotgun because that round doesn't go, the double-aught buck does not go very far. Oh, you're not getting past 40 yards with that thing. And it opens up so big. I mean, you're going to hit everything that you're trying to shoot at, stuff like. It's just an easier thing to do than a round that, like I said, could go and go.
Your target area is much smaller. You have the same target area, but
yes, the BBs go everywhere. Absolutely,
it's a lot bigger.
But my distance is a lot shorter. I can't shoot 100 yards. It won't make it. It's all those pellets are on the ground by 100 yards. Mm-hmm. Well, the 223 round's not on the ground. At 100 yards, I want to say a 223 round drops some 18 inches or something like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm still hitting people. And I mean, if I'm shooting a shotgun and, like, say I'm in a home environment, and and I make these preposterous, like, the home defense thing is nonsense too.
But are these people really shooting people at 100 yards?
No, I'm just saying the round carries. There could be a person at 100 yards. I'm not saying they're shooting someone at 100 yards. So, okay. There's a bunch of kids playing in the park 100 yards away, but this guy's right in front of you. You miss him and it hits them.
Are we talking about a self-defense scenario here, or?
I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's exactly what we're talking about, because we're not talking about, we're not crazy. We're not talking about offense.
I mean, if you're, I mean, I don't usually just walk around with an AR on my back, so.
Right.
I mean, for a self-defense situation, you would use a frangible bullet that would break apart as soon as it hits a target. Sure.
So it's not an optimal weapon for self-defense anyway, because you have to walk around with this huge gun.
No, I think it is.
Okay. So, no, explain. That's fine.
I mean, not an open carry situation.
So so give me a scenario
in a home
where
situation, absolutely.
Okay. Go ahead. Explain that scenario where. I mean, because all the scenarios are preposterous. There are scenarios where you're in your house and you're doing what you do, or you're sleeping, or whatever you're doing, mm-hmm. and a person comes in, and you're going to get this rifle, mm-hmm. and I'm guessing it's already loaded, because if not, you're fucked.
No, never loaded.
Oh, well, okay. I'm just saying.
I guarantee if they hear me slapping a magazine into my rifle, that's
yeah. But I mean, the problem would be that you're not going to hear them before they're on. So
okay, then I have my pistol next to the bed.
Right. So that, to me, that seems like a much better solution than this long rifle is.
It's not really that long, though.
Well, it's still longer than the 6-inch barrel on a.
And it has a flashlight on it.
Right. I got yeah. I think in the movies that looks great, but in a. So go ahead, give me the scenario. So I just don't picture a scenario.
I would much rather have my AR-15, because there's already, when you grab it, you have a thumb. You grab it. There's a thumb switch right here for your flashlight.
Yep.
So you can see what you're pointing at.
Yep, sure.
Whereas with my handgun, I don't have a light. If it's dark in the house,
right,
I might see somebody coming towards me, but I can't really see them.
Right.
And I would be too afraid to pull a trigger on on a target I can't see.
You should never pull it. Right. Because that could just be a friend of yours.
In my house, whatever.
Right.
But I would absolutely grab my AR first.
Okay. But I mean, give me the scenario, because first off, home burglary sort of scenarios, which most people don't. I mean, in the movies, people break into a house to rape somebody, but that's not usually how rape goes down. Usually it's a situation where, it's in an alley, or it's not in your house. And if it was in your house, then it's somebody situation. Mm-hmm. But so give me a scenario where you're able to get, I mean, my house is sprawling. I got a ranch, right? So I got it's probably more than 100 feet long. And if my AR-15 is down there and I'm over there.
Well, you should have something in every room in the house.
I'm not in any way, shape, or form ever going to live like that. That's just not going to be me. But right, no, that's right. And I want you to be able to do that if that makes you feel good. But I don't live in that.
Well, you never know, though.
I don't, but I also don't like constantly. I don't carry a fire extinguisher with me everywhere I go too because the house is gonna burn down. That's not a thing that's going on.
No, but
so I don't, know.
But you have to have some kind of preparation in case that does happen, because you don't expect it to happen. You don't live in fear, but if something like that...
It sounds like you might be living in fear. Like,
no.
Because, I mean...
Not necessarily.
I'm just saying that, like, it doesn't even cross my mind. And, okay, so I was a guy walking around...
I don't want to prepare after something happens.
Those are all fine cliches to say, but what if nothing ever happens?
Great.
I'm just saying... The chances are nothing's ever going to happen because I've lived my entire 16 years. I'm busting around in a wheelchair.
You'd be surprised what I've been through.
No, right. And I'd like to hear that for sure. And that's fine. I get that. And I'm not, I wouldn't ever like make small of that or anything like that. What I'm saying is I live in a situation where I'm less able to defend myself now than you are. And, I hate going back to the movies, but the movies are all bullshit. In the movies, there's a woman fighting John Wick. That's not real, because if I was walking around and you were trained jiu-jitsu, whatever the hell, you're a striker to fight me, and I punch you, I'm going to break bones in your face. I'm going to crush things because I'm a fucking man with... This is why in the UFC they don't let men fight women, because you could be trained, you could have better technique, but your bone structure's just not there. I just have more to give when it comes to that situation. So, but I'm taken out of that now, right? So I'm busting around, and probably the first 6 or 7 months I was, kicking around in a wheelchair. I'm like, I better keep my head on a swivel because I beat a lot of people up, and be some motherfucker that's looking for retribution right about now. No one ever came around for that. Everyone was, pretty fucking good about it. They, have a decent, place in their heart where they're not going to beat a guy up in a wheelchair. But, well, I had one guy that wanted to fight me one time. And I was like, game. I'm like, oh, we'll give it a go. I lose, I got nothing to lose, right? I'm a guy in a wheelchair. But I still have never thought to myself, I've got to figure out some way to get a weapon on me because
Anything can be a weapon.
No, I understand that. But it's never even crossed my mind. Like, I'm not even a situation where I'm like, I'm going to need a gun because I can't defend myself. I go to the south side to a White Sox game. I'm in pretty much the projects are right there. Still not too worried about it. Like, it's just not a thing that's on my mind, where it's on your mind. And maybe rightfully so, because you said you have a story.
I don't, it's not constantly on my mind, but I know what I need to do if something happens. And I don't think there's fault in that.
I don't find any fault in it. In fact, I put my daughter in jiu-jitsu for just that reason. The reason I put her in it was she did 2 summers, and I was like, listen, I just want you to do this. She had no interest in it at all. She's a gymnast. She's like, and I'm like, you're strong and all this other stuff. But if you would just, I know someday, my daughter's going to go away to college, and I don't want some dude to grab you, fuck you, and stick you in a wall somewhere, and then you're fucked. I want you to be able to have a fighting fucking chance of at least getting away from this situation. So put her in with my friend Leo from Randori Jiu-Jitsu, and, she just gave it just, if someone came at you, you're going to roll like this, whatever, and it's going to give you a second to get the fuck out of there.
And she knows what to do. She's
Right.
prepared for a situation
So I'm totally with you on that situation. My problem is, I think that there's so many people that first it's a false sense of security, because if you put an animal in a situation, you put a guy that's a wrestler, you put a guy that's a jiu-jitsu guy in a situation, and I get within 5 feet of you, I'm going to tie you in a knot. My hands...
Well, that's the thing. If somebody is coming at me, I'm not going to let them get 5 feet in front of me.
Well, how you know?
In my own home?
No, not in your own home. No. Well, my problem is this. You do sleep, right? One eye open, or how do you do that? Okay, well, so my situation, I guess my only fear would be I have a house that there's guns and there's ammunition. They're not anywhere near each other because I do have kids. So they're not in the same place. I don't have them for self-defense. I have them for hunting only. And if I'm going to hunt, then I put the two things together and it becomes my tool to go do what I'm doing.
Right.
If I put the two things together when there's kids in the room, it becomes a thing that's dangerous. Somebody could be fucking around with it and end up dead.
But you've been taught that responsibility.
Yes, right. I agree. Right. So, but what I'm saying is, So it's not a self-defense thing at all in my situation. So it's not a preparation for anything. It's just a thing that it's like fishing rods. You know what I mean? I just take it out to go do what I'm doing.
Right.
I look at those things as they're my car. They're what I drive around on the street with, no problem. I take it and I'm going to go hunting and I'm going to shoot my pheasants. When I look at the weapon you're talking about, the AR-15 that's all decked out with everything, that's a race car. The only place that belongs is on a racetrack. My friend that drives race cars on the Autobahn would never drive his race car on the street because it's too dangerous.
There's different kinds of race cars.
Absolutely. But
There's
it's
race
so
cars
fast.
That aren't street legal, and there's race cars that are.
Yes, right. I got it. But
and mine is.
It's legal today. And my thing is if the gun people that are so rigid don't find a way to bend in a situation where they, like I said, can have it in a club or do further background checks, like expand the background check situation, or...
I'm totally fine with further background checks.
Right, no, I know. We've talked about it.
I have nothing to hide, and
yes.
I don't think anybody should have anything to hide.
Right, I mean, you don't think a person that's clinically mentally ill should be carrying a gun.
Absolutely not.
Right,
no.
right. Because, I mean, that's how we end up with trouble. Someone that's on psychotropic drugs probably shouldn't be... I mean, if you're schizophrenic, if you're like, stop touching me, and you're all by yourself, a gun's probably a bad idea for you to have. So these are just common sense things. Well, there are people out there that are like, well, wait a minute. Who's going to decide who is fit and who's not fit? And I'm like, well, listen, we've got to come to some sort of a baseline where we can... My problem is we can't just look at, 21 people were shot at Sandy Hook, and a bunch of them were like little 7-year-olds. I got 3 kids.
Tragic.
Yes, I got 3 kids, and the worst... I'm paralyzed from my chest down. That's nothing compared to losing one of my kids. I've done everything I do. I'm a real estate broker, a general contractor. I do this podcast. I'm a wrestling coach. Nothing has stopped me with anything with this shit that would stop me in my tracks. I'd be done. I'm finished.
Absolutely.
I'm done. I've done everything I can to raise these kids. And they went to a concert, and some fucking assholes in the goddamn hotel room shooting people, and they shot my fucking kid in the head. Now he's a piece of meat over everything I did with this kid and all the love I got for this child. So when that happens and somebody comes to me and says, will not be infringed, I go fuck yourself. Go fuck yourself. Stick that fucking will not be infringed right up your fucking ass. Come up with a fucking solution for, this is my child that I did everything I could for society to raise this kid so he wasn't going to be an asshole and a problem for you in society. And some asshole that came out of the society fucking killed him. So we've got to do something to change. And most of the people were on psychotropic drugs. There was a problem that was there, or they used a straw buyer to get the gun, or some way that we can tighten up the situation. And listen, if you save one life and it's my kid, it's worth it. I don't give a shit if you feel infringed. If you're worried that they're going to give you some psychological profile test and you're not going to get a gun, maybe you shouldn't have a gun. There's a problem then. Because most people, for the most part, most people I think are perfectly fit to own a gun. That's fine. My other problem with it is I grew up with a Marine teaching me how to use that gun. I grew up with a Marine saying, hey, let's go over here. He was a butcher. Shoot this big roast and see what happens to it. See what happened to that, Billy? If you fuck around here and you shoot your friend, that's going to be live tissue. That's going to be all fucked up. And you can't put it back together. There's no surgeon that could put this roast back together that we shot. So you don't need that, though. I can just go get and Illinois is actually tougher. I can just go get a FOID card as long as I don't have a felony on my record. I can buy a gun and go to the range. No training, no one there to help me out. Like, who was your mentor with the gun situation? How'd you get in it? I know you said you were a PETA member, and also, didn't you equestrian, horse ride?
Yeah. I was a active PETA member, activist. I was marching down Michigan Avenue with my bloody fur coat.
Right.
And
So you had some strong thoughts on the matter then to get marching.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you would have thought me as a hunter was preposterous. Can't believe you're killing bunnies and pheasants and ducks. And...
No, actually, I saw a lot of what was going on in the factory farming industry, and through PETA, and I had been a vegetarian at the time, 2 years with no meat.
Oh, wow.
Taking supplements, but it just works for some people. It doesn't work for others. It did not work for me. I started having seizures.
Oh, my gosh.
And my doctor said,
You eat some meat.
You need some meat.
Right.
So after seeing all the atrocities that happen and associated with grocery store meat,
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I decided, well, time to learn to hunt. So
Yeah.
the meat I hunt has not been abused. It has not been loaded full of hormones and
antibiotics
and all that. It's all natural. They've lived a good life up until that moment.
Right.
But, I just couldn't see supporting that industry.
If it was up to me, I would eat. Right, I would eat everything. Everything I eat would be something I shot. That would be the, the meat wise. And then I just out back here, like I've got blueberries and strawberries and raspberries. Like I like to grow stuff, all that stuff, because of the farm. Like I don't know where this shit came from. That's at the grocery store.
Oh yeah, and the chicken now in the grocery store is a completely different texture than it used to be.
Yes. Besides that, if my dad was a butcher for 34, 35 years, if you saw what goes on.
Oh no!
Pick up that box of chicken and all the pus is coming out of it. You're like, oh my god, it's so awful. It's terrible. But so for me, when I shot a pheasant, like there were certain things I had to be taught how to prepare this food. Right. But I was seriously like, it's an odd thing, but like when I see ducks, I see a meal.
Absolutely.
Like, I'm out on my deck in my back here, and I'm feeding the fish, and the ducks come up, and I'm like, oh yeah. To pluck them and make a dinner out of that meal. We used to eat geese.
Never-ending supply.
Right. And then the other thing that when my hunting, like I was serious about it, I was good at it. Like we would go and get your bag limit in Illinois is 2 pheasants a day. I would go down to Iroquois County and you could have 2 pheasants on your person. You can have 2 in the refrigerator or in the freezer. Mm-hmm. So I never had them in the freezer anyway. I was eating them just constantly. But we'd go out on a Saturday or Sunday, shoot 2 pheasants, eat the pheasants that day. On Wednesday, shoot 2 more pheasants. Mm-hmm. And then, because wintertime construction, not real busy. So we're out doing that all the time. And then we would jump hunt ducks and, shoot rabbits when we saw them. We made Hassenpfeffer stew. All that stuff was terrific. And I felt like, yes, like this is not some factory farmed animal that lived its entire life in a cage, or like the chickens, for Christ's sake, they can't walk. They've bred them so fat and they've steroided them up.
Disgusting.
Yes, right. It's all bad. So I would do it that way 100%. I would definitely hunt everything I did.
It's hard to do it 100%, but
Oh, it got to be, it's impossible.
Yeah.
You'd have to be a millionaire and you'd have to have area to hunt that was so big that you could, if you were a person shooting bigger game, a hog could last you quite a while.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Down in Texas, the season never ends. It's 24/7,
right.
365.
Now some stuff's not good though.
As you want.
Right. I don't know. I've never had wild boar, but I've heard that's good.
Well, we like to eat the smaller ones,
mm-hmm.
but they're just.
So yeah, not to get too deep into. Well, podcasts are for like a deep dive into stuff. Hunting wise, for me too, in Illinois, and I think it's just about everywhere. Unless you're on a reserve somewhere or somewhere where you're in a game park where you pay for the birds, you can only shoot male pheasants. That's it. So the hens, you got to let them go. So you got to be willing to, or able to, when that bird comes up, spot it and know whether it's a female or a male, and then shoot the animal. And then ducks are on a point system, so you can shoot females or males. When it comes to hunting like deer and stuff like that, I would be more apt to take a small doe than I would this big buck with the rack. I've never been somebody that's into the wall of shame where I've got this like wall of deer heads and bear and all this other shit. That's just not my thing, the trophy hunt thing. It'd be for meat. And I've spent a lot of time with hunters that were from Canada on fishing trips, and that's their take on it too. They're always hunting the smaller or younger.
I'm a girl though. I don't necessarily like to hunt the girls.
Is that right? I guess I don't think about it. I'd take a button buck too. It wouldn't bother me. Yeah.
I can't. You don't know if they have a baby somewhere. I just can't. I don't know.
Oh, some
I
things,
can shoot a girl, but
right. But some things you should know if they have a baby. I mean, a deer doesn't have a baby, come deer season.
I know, but I don't know. I'm more partial.
No, that's
to
perfect. That's fine.
Boys.
You should have right. You should. There you go. Nice. I should be worried. You're right. So I get that, and that's fine. I've told you all the animals I've shot, I've never not had a twinge of like, this pheasant.
It's not that you like to kill.
Nope.
It's not like you have that bloodlust.
Right. Well, I want to get that across to people who don't hunt and don't shoot. That's, for me, it's the smallest part of this situation. My situation is I'm going to look at the lay of the land. I'm going to know which way the wind's blowing. I'm going to know, what the temperature is, what the conditions are today. I know what shotgun I'm taking, what shell I'm putting in the shotgun. I always hunt over a dog because I'm not losing anything that way either. I mean, you shoot a pheasant, that dog's going to find it for sure. And then my meal preparation is the other part of my thing. The killing part literally takes less than 30 seconds of my entire day to shoot 2 pheasants. So, that is the least big part of it. And as a hunter, as someone who you would think would be calloused about this thing, I'm 48 years old, from 6 years old I was shooting things. I still always felt like, didn't want to really kill something today. And I mean, if I'm in my car and a chipmunk runs out, I'm like trying to swerve to miss him. Like I'm not running over a damn squirrel.
I wouldn't either. But in areas where hunting's not allowed, the DNR just rounds them up and blasts them all away.
I never did know that.
Yeah.
I know that starvation and stuff like that.
The county in Indiana where my house actually is, they don't allow hunting the forest preserves, but the DNR, which makes no sense because they could issue hunting licenses to harvest these deer and make the county money, but instead they'd rather spend money and herd them up backwards. And just blast them all away, right. And then scoop them up and ship them.
Have you ever seen where the municipalities in small towns will hire hunters to come in downtown and shoot like pigeons and all that kind of stuff?
Yes, yeah. I've done that.
Right. So I mean, that seems like a better way to go than to round them all up and kill them.
Yeah, it's just a cull. It's just there's no
do they do anything with the meat with that situation?
There's a wolf park down in Battleground, Indiana.
They take them down there.
And they take them down there.
Okay. Because I know even the IDOT guys, if a deer freshly gets killed on the road and they know where they can, that meat can go somewhere to, whether it's a wolf park or my grandparents had a place up in Oxford, Wisconsin, and it was terrible. But like the gas station had like a bear in a cage in front of the gas station.
Oh, that's gross.
It's terrible. I know it was terrible. But if a deer got killed, they would chop up the meat and give the people at the gas station the deer they give them the deer for the bear, which, right. The cage was awful. The cage was like, the size of my kitchen. It was like he could just pace around it, and it was a thing. You'd go up there and you'd buy a soda pop, and then you'd give the bear the soda through the thing.
I think animal rights have come a long way and would never.
Yeah, we don't see that.
I would hope they would never allow that again.
Right. Me too. So, and that coming from two people who hunt, you don't hate animals at all, right?
No.
Right, me neither.
I'm a huge animal lover.
Right. But like, I'm positive that my friends that have never hunted, when they see a duck, they just see a bill and feathers and a bird. I see a meal. I look at that and go, I know what that tastes like, and that's good.
And it's probably healthier. I think the meat that we're being given in this country is a big reason why we have so much cancer in
Right,
this country.
right.
So I think, harvesting wild game is got to be more healthy.
Yeah, I would think so too. I mean, I would think
even if you can't do it 100% of the time, at least part of the time, I don't know. That's just my view, my theory.
Right. I don't think you're far off. I mean, I think if you're a guy that's a deer hunter or something like that, you can easily stack your freezer with enough deer to last you a good half a year.
One deer will last a year.
Right.
For a family. So, and the cost is minimal after your initial cost of gear and stuff.
So the hunting stuff, I would say we mostly agree. I wouldn't walk around with an AR-15 to hunt just because the looks and the necessity of it. I don't need that.
In Texas, and you're hunting multiple animals at a time. I mean, you could use all your rounds.
Yeah, no, I doubt it. I mean, I've been up in
maybe not all at once, but I mean, it's just
I just don't.
You could use 30 rounds in a day.
We used to go on a trip to Canada, and the trip to Canada was we drove 18 hours to Red Lake, which is like the end of roads. Like that's the end in Canada. Something like 80% of the civilization lives within 150 miles of the border. Like it's too fucking cold up there. And I don't know how much time you've ever spent in Canada. It just turns into like this tundra that's just nothing up there. It's not even pretty anymore. It's just like swampy, kind of like awful looking. But we would drive 18 hours, get to Red Lake, and then they would put us on a pond jumper from there and fly us 110 miles north of there and drop us off at a lake that there was 6 lakes to our... Oh, it was wonderful. It was just... There were so many times that I was up there that I was like, I could just walk off. And if I had a rifle with me and my fishing gear, I'm positive I could survive, no problem. And we were always there like in May. So I'd have all summer to smoke some stuff, stock up, do everything I had to do, build a structure, whatever I got to do. And, I build stuff too. So like I could totally do this. But there's a heavy bear population. You can't go anywhere without seeing bear shit everywhere. And bear paw prints in the mud and everything else. So there's bears. We were just loud. We would see a bear every once in a while. As soon as he saw you and you were loud, he was the fuck out of here. And we carried a pack of firecrackers, something like that with us too. If ever we thought that there was like, one time we thought we were walking, because we were portaging, so you'd walk up to, you'd pull up in the boat in one lake, get out, detach the motor, walk a block or two through the woods to another lake where there's a boat laying there, you throw the motor on it and go into a lake that no one's been in. Which was awesome. It was like so amazing to be like pristine. Amazing. Oh, it's just beautiful. But and the fishing was stupid. Like I could put my phone on a line and with a hook on it and catch fish. Like they're just as dumb as can be because they'd never seen a person before. But bears everywhere. One time we were walking and we could have swore, like I'm telling you, something's walking with us, and that we felt like right into the brush, like 15 yards from us, there was a fucking bear. So we stopped, grabbed the firecrackers, and something ran. Something was walking with us. But booked as soon as we started firing that off. So I can't imagine that my 6-round magazine would not scare the shit out of anything to get the hell away from me.
Well, I think that there could be other variables too. What if the bear is sick, injured? I mean, deer get diseases of the brain where they start acting crazy.
Sure. Not at a big enough ratio for me to walk around with a fucking submachine gun.
I don't know. I think I would... I would
just be a pain in the ass, but
prefer to have more than 6 if I'm doing.
I know. I think you're,
crazy bear, just a big bear that wants to eat you.
I think I need to go on a trip with you, and then everything that could possibly happen is in your purse. Like I mean,
you would be covered.
Right.
Trust me.
You've got super glue, and you've got like I mean, I don't. There's not a contingency for every single thing that could possibly the crazy sick deer time. Like that's just not something that's on my radar.
But.
I got you. Right. Hey, I got a buddy of mine. I got a buddy of mine who fantasizes every single day. He goes out that he's going to run into the guy in the mass shooting situation. He's a concealed carry guy. I joke with him that he's like, running around his house doing somersaults like T.J. Hooker, drawing his gun all the time. You don't walk around your house practicing your flashlight situation, do you?
I do not.
There you go. Okay, good.
I do not, but I have practiced
Get the microphone a little bit.
Oh.
There you go. Just losing you. No, that's good. That's good. And I mean, I don't begrudge anyone that situation. My problem is if I put myself to try and have some defense, I would put myself in the burglar's situation, right? Like, I don't believe that there's just marauders out there that, I mean, you're a good-looking woman. Maybe someone's like trying to get you and like stuff you in a van somewhere and drive off with you. They're looking for my ass, so we're worried about that. But so the way for me to like prepare for a contingency plan would be, what would the burglar want to do? So for the longest time, I do now because I got a neighbor that's a little bit off. I got a neighbor that like be like putting his hand on his ear and talking to the FBI, and then you come up to him and he's got nothing in his ear, like he's got something wrong. So I lock the doors here. But I lived out on 6 acres in Manhattan, and if I was going to kill somebody or something like that, that'd be the ideal place to do it because there's no neighbors. Like, it's just, there's nothing around. So no one's going to call the cops. But I never locked the doors there, ever. I mean, I went to sleep every night, front door open, back door open, garage open, all that just open. I mean, my van for 12 years was parked out there with sometimes the lift on it open, so the doors on the side wide open. The keys are in the fucking thing, and no one messed with it. So, like, for the most part, nothing happens. But if I'm making a contingency plan that I feel like something could, I live in an area maybe something could. First, I'm locking my doors. Second, I'm living a life where all my guns are in a place in this house where you can look in any window, you could never see them. You wouldn't know I have guns in the house. Because I would be worried that if I have a bunch of guns, and I do, that somebody would look in the window, see them, get them, and then do something.
Wait for you to leave and break in.
Exactly right. That's how I feel about it, right? So those are my contingency plans. So when I leave, I lock the doors and all that because I know I'm not home. Mm-hmm. I also don't live, I don't know what you're, like, you don't have a job that's got like a rigid schedule, right? Mm-hmm. Like, you're kind of, me too, right? So like real estate, I could be out all evening one day. I could be home all Tuesday afternoon. My office is behind this fish tank. I'm in there, sort of thing. So if someone was casing my situation, they could never in a million years like pinpoint, well, Tuesdays I'm always somewhere else, or like that sort of thing. So I don't think I'm a target. I think they would just be like, fuck it, no. And my dog, who is a golden retriever, super sweetheart, wouldn't bite a burglar, but he's going to bark. And I sleep so incredibly light that I'm awake for, if anything goes on.
Well, I have barkers too.
Yes.
Yeah.
If my neighbor farts, the dog barks. So, that's fine. So those are my contingency plans as far as to keep safe. If I'm a burglar and I look at that situation and every time I come near that house, the dog barks, I'm just going to move on down the road.
Exactly.
Because I'll just try something else because it's not going to work. Because I don't know if he's got guns or what's going on. So those are my defense.
Well, my dogs could be bought with a bacon strip. So
mine could be bought with, hey, buddy. Yes, no, what's up? No, for sure. Like mine's an idiot. Like, no. But he does bark if the wind blows right. Yeah. I mean, he will growl at a squirrel in the backyard, which is my little alarm system sort of a thing, And I mean, I see people that do like the ADT stuff, so they put the stickers up and a little sign in the yard. The burglar at that point goes, I'm going to find another way. It was the same thing, like me and my buddy Danny and a couple other guys used to go to White Sox games all the time, and our buddy Steve went to ITT, which is right on the other side of the projects, right by the ballpark.
Yeah.
And we used to park at ITT, walk through the projects to the ballpark, like right through the projects, and no one's fucking with us. We're all fucking mean-looking dudes that can handle ourselves. They looked at us and they're like, well, they probably got $40 on them. We could try and rob them. One of them's going to get something busted on us, or something's going to happen. Or we could just wait for a little old lady to walk by and then get her instead. So, the easier targets are what they're looking for, in my mind anyway. So I don't ever feel like a target. I don't ever feel like I need to have a contingency plan the way you feel you do. And you said you had a story for why you do. You said you had some sort of a reason why, your violent reason why,
Oh,
if you care
well,
to share.
yeah. Well, I have a few reasons why I got into guns. Probably the first reason would be I was a victim of a violent rape when I was 15 years old.
Could you pull that microphone just in front of you a little bit? There you go.
And 15 years old, and I didn't know how to I didn't know what to do in that situation.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Even today, that's terrible.
I don't dwell on it, but I started looking into learning self-defense, and then decided I kind of wanted to start going into law enforcement, and started training with handguns.
So how old were you when you started training with handguns?
I think I was 20 at the time, actually. I was a little older. And so I had a very basic knowledge at the time, and then I got married to a very violent person, and who shouldn't have had a gun. And so that is why I think I am not at all opposed to further background checks, because he shouldn't have had a gun. And this was, he had gotten his, he actually, I don't even know if he had a license. I think this was before. He did have a license, but there was no like background check or something. I'm not sure. But he actually held a gun to my head and pulled the trigger.
Right.
So then I realized I saw him put the magazine, he's on top of me. I saw him put the magazine in, I saw him pull the trigger, but he never checked the gun to see if there was a round in the chamber. And I didn't know anything different either.
Right.
So after that, I really dug into I really wanted to learn how to protect myself. And,
right.
And I was lucky enough to be in a situation where a very good friend of mine hooked me up with Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, to learn some basic hand-to-hand combat techniques, knife techniques, handgun training, like more specialized kind of training like that, in case I needed to ever defend myself against somebody that was significantly bigger than me, which was the case.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how it started, and then the whole PETA thing went in, and that's how I got into the hunting aspect of it, and everything just kind of networked into what I'm doing now. So
so explain that. What are you doing now? What is it that you do? I know what you do. I just wanted to explain to people who don't know what you do. Like you talked about it. We talked about it beforehand, like in a messenger and stuff like that. But so you're repping for the air gun,
professional big bore air rifles.
Yeah.
Terry Tate's the owner. He came up with this amazing rifle that shoots 6 different kinds of ammunition, and the rifle that he designed actually took down a world record Cape Buffalo, 1,800 pounds.
So explain, because I'm always interested in that kind of thing. Like the engineering part of it to me is super, super interesting. And if people don't know, air rifles have been around since like the 1500s. Lewis and Clark took air rifles with the Sacagawea in their expedition across the country, they had air rifles on them. Some of them had like pumps where the stock was where the air was held and stuff like that. Like it's all changed now, but that air rifle stuff has been around. At one point, they thought that was going to replace the black powder and stuff like that. But so what's the they got like a muzzle loader and
one's a shotgun. You can put a barrel insert and make it into a rifle.
Okay.
I designed a AR platform that has a little, because I collect the Godzilla, so it has a little Godzilla on
nice
the rifle, and it's called the Zilla 457. But yeah, I mean, I'll go down there here and there, and we'll just go shooting and have a good time. And
now the air rifle stuff, is it super quiet when you shoot? I mean,
it's super quiet. It's super low recoil, very surprisingly lethal.
Yeah.
I mean, I've taken 350-pound boar with one shot and just dropped them right there, no chasing.
And what's the caliber? What's the diameter?
That's a 457. I believe it was a 155 grain ball ammo.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's just a really awesome company, and
yeah, sounds like it.
It's a world record holder.
Right.
So that's pretty fun, and I also do a lot of the. I did a lot of brand ambassadorships with several companies around the world, just doing promotional material and videos and things like that.
And some of the photo shoot stuff you do too, right? Like, I mean, I've seen some of they're really, really, really cool looking photos. I mean, I know some people probably that are subscribers to my podcast and stuff like that don't know you, but I mean they'll know you now because I'll definitely on the YouTube version I'll take some photos and stick them on there and stuff like that. But so like there's a certain modeling aspect to it too, right? Like
I had kind of stopped modeling for a while, and then I just got kind of recently in the last few years got pulled back into it,
right.
Which is great because it's like I'm an old lady at this point. It's great that
I don't know. Do you feel that old?
I don't. I do not feel
old. I don't feel old at all. You were just there too at the reunion, and I was like, oh my God, I do not feel this old. It was fun. I mean, I had a good time with that.
It was great seeing everybody.
Yeah, it was. I think that those things are fun and they have to be done a certain way, but when I don't see a bunch of people for, say it's 20 years or 30 years or 20, 15 years, whatever it is, I almost think that there should be something before that for like 4 or 5 hours where people could talk.
Yes.
Because the music was terrific. They have the music and everyone's having a good time, but you could not hear anybody talk or anything like that. And really, like, that, the podcast, I do this because I like to have a conversation. So I like to sit down.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been in the same circles and stuff for years and years and years. I've never said this many words to you.
No.
So it's good to do that. It's good to hear someone's thoughts on things and everything else. And then, you get a background. My problem with social media is, everyone's just got this like couple things they shoot out there. And then as soon as somebody perceives you as a position, then they take a counter position or they get their guard up. Like we posted that we were going to do the podcast and everybody was like, you got this. And, I'm like, you're gonna get here. I'm like, come on over and get some juicy booty. Let's go. Come on, we're gonna fight. That's not what's gonna happen. I mean, that's not what somebody who's got guns and somebody who, is in the gun business should even want to happen. You don't want to fight. I see all these people that are like, yeah, well, come on and try and take it. Or it's like, the minute that starts to go down, there's 325 million people in this country. If 5 million people started shooting 5 million other people, you're going to lose your fucking guns then, because now we got a civil war happening and then you're going to have a problem. You're going to need to sit down and find a middle ground in this situation so that everybody can keep their fucking guns. Like, just because, I hate the power trip that people get on when they get a gun. So like that's the culture I didn't grow up in. I didn't feel like my cock was bigger because I had a gun in my hand. Like I never felt more powerful than a gun in my hand. In fact, growing up, like I lived in a house with a couple guys that were all animals, and we were there. We had some shotguns. We weren't even thinking about that. But I'm like, the one guy goes, "Would it be cool if someone broke in here?" I'm like, "Yeah, it'd be pretty cool if someone broke in here." We were not thinking about shooting him. We were thinking about getting him, beating the shit out of him, sticking him in the basement, tying him to a chair and pissing on him or something like stupid, right? Like just being animals sort of a thing where, like, I always felt like we always fought. Growing up, I'm 48 years old, growing up in the 80s and stuff like that, fighting was just a thing that we did on a regular basis. And I always felt like it was a cheap cop-out for that 13-year-old to pull a gun out. Now you did equalize it. I'm 17 years old, I can kick the shit out of you, but now I can't because you've got this. I don't think you're tough. I still think you're a pussy, but you've got a gun.
13-year-olds shouldn't have a gun.
Right. Well, that's for sure. But there's all kinds of stuff that's in the news now, and I've gotten a bunch of messages. Like, and I almost feel weird about reading some of the questions because I feel like they see me, and I've been in my fair share of debates, even countering with you on social media, and they know that my position is not one of, slippery slope and you can't make any new gun laws and all this other stuff. So that's one of the talking points. Gun laws don't work because only criminals or only law-abiding citizens with the guns. That's bullshit. By that logic, no laws should exist ever, anywhere. Laws are not in place to stop crime. Laws are in place to prosecute crime. If there's no law in place and I break it or I do it, then I'm not breaking the law. You can't put me in jail. But if you make a law, then I go a step across that line, now in court, you can prosecute me. If laws stopped anything, murder wouldn't exist because that's been illegal forever. Mm-hmm. So like that's not a way to say anything. And like I wish that some of these people would think of the talking points that they say and be like, all right, my friend Joe just lost his son in a mass shooting. Go run all those talking points by him. None of them are going to fly. He's not going to look at you and go, well, no laws. That's not going to help my situation. That's certainly not going to bring my son back. Nothing is. But so that's one of them, that no laws will do anything. And then the other one is like, I know that right now they're really upset about red flag laws. But these are the same people that were not upset about profiling. Like, well, duh, the guy's got a turban on his head. You got to search him at the airport.
Well, that's what I was going to say. After 9/11, we were told not to judge a whole group of people on
right.
the actions of a few,
right?
Which is kind of correlates to guns.
Sure. I agree. Right.
I mean, there's what is that? Like 400 million guns in this country. 327 million
yes.
people.
Right. It's per capita. It's 1.22.
Yeah.
Right.
Something like that.
Right. Which is insane because the very next country in the world is 62 per capita, 0.62. So it's like less than it's a little more than half a gun per person.
It is, yeah. But I don't know. Like another thing, there's this myth that Australia that.
Yeah, Australia had a mass shooting, and then the country did a huge buyback, and there hasn't been a mass shooting there since then.
Very low, yes, but they're still allowed to have guns, and there's still homicides there.
Yeah.
With guns,
but reduced in a large way. I think that if you study other countries, because Japan's another one too. They have a gun culture in Japan because that's a warrior. That's a warrior mentality in Japan. Those people they're genetically raised in that samurai sort of thing, but they have laws where if you're a gun owner, you need to have a gun safe. You need to have things locked up, and they do inspections where they have that. So I mean, like.
That would be great and all, but I wouldn't want to have inspections every day.
I wouldn't either.
Every month or every year.
Right.
But
now, what about that licensing
idea?
idea?
That speaking of red flags, yeah, I do think, like, for example, in Indiana, I'm an Indiana legal resident, so
Yeah.
my gun permit is a lifetime permit. I don't ever have to renew it. That I kind of have a problem with, because
I do
people
too.
do change.
I think it should be looked at like a
And-
driver's license. And if you're 90 years old, they take you in. If you can't see and hear no more, you can't drive.
Right.
Sorry,
So
Sam.
that
it's
is,
time to start getting
that is
some of
something that I would be on board with. Maybe lifetime, I don't know, because so
No.
many variables could happen. In
You have a
your
head
life.
injury.
You could become super depressed, and there's really that is one thing I would be on board with about as far as changing the laws. I think lifetime, that might not be such a great
No,
idea.
there's people that have schizophrenia running in their family, and it doesn't manifest itself until you're 40 years old. So if you got your
Exactly.
thing at 30 and you were all good to go, and then you were on psychotropic drugs by the time you're 40, you probably shouldn't. I mean, I don't want to take things away from people, but I also don't want to live in a police state. I don't want to live in a place
Right.
where I don't think that I should spend where people are worried about where their tax money goes until it's something that it goes for something they want. So people want to keep their bang bang toys, and I gotta like outfit every school to be Fort Knox with metal detectors and armed guards and all this other shit, when we should be able to do something legislation wise that stops people from that are on those kind of drugs from getting. There's gotta be something mentally wrong with you to be like, you know what I'm gonna do today? I'm going to go in and I'm going to shoot a bunch of teenagers in school. Like, that seems, you must have a problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't even know if there's any way that you could stop something from that.
Yeah, I don't think you can
happening,
stop it 100%.
Because, I mean, how do you regulate everybody's mental health?
No, right.
However, if family members or something think that you might be kind of like, you might do something, I think.
Now, that's the red flag laws, right? Someone's
Right.
like, hey, Jojo over there has got, he's been hitting himself in the face with a pan all
I
afternoon.
mean, like, I'd be on board with that too. I mean, it's hard because there could be a lot of false accusations of limited mental capacity from somebody that might
Sure.
want to
Now, I will
just hurt you.
right.
and-
I will get someone on, probably my buddy Andy on, or someone like that. That is, and like I said, this is not a debate. I'm just looking to hear your point of view, which actually I'm enjoying it very, very much. Andy will argue more because he's got an unrealistic, in my view of it. He's, going to be very upset about red flag laws. He's going to be very upset about.
I know a lot of people are. But,
Right.
I
He's
mean,
going to be very upset about a
if
gun
somebody-
registry.
If somebody, I mean, people knew that I was being abused in my marriage, and
Right.
people knew that guns were in the house, I would have loved for somebody to have said, hey, this guy's abusing his wife. There's a lot of, I mean, I have records of it with the police department, with
Right.
the hospital, and there was nothing that I could do, and I would have loved to have had somebody come and take those guns away from him, because I knew someday that he was going to kill me with them.
Right. But
But in
this
instances-
trips into like stuff like the Kavanaugh stuff, and it's just one woman who's saying this thing about this guy, and now he gets his uninfringible
Well,
rights
that's-
taken away, and
That's the thing. I mean, it's so hard to. There's so many accusations against the sports stars today, and the celebrities and just normal people. And very little repercussions for that.
yes, for sure.
And so now it's almost like cry wolf,
Right.
You never. It's just a weird situation, the red flag laws, because there's so many people that are just bitter and would love to hurt you any way they could, and if
Sure.
that's
I think it
somebody
should
would
be,
hurt me by taking away my guns and
Oh,
saying
yes,
that
right.
I was
Yeah,
mentally
right.
incorrupt.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Or mentally
No,
corrupt.
I think that it should be more like a situation where, so, to drive a vehicle, you need to go in and get licensed to drive that vehicle. And if something happens, like I got paralyzed, my old license is gone. Like I can't drive. I couldn't just because I had a driver's license before and I wasn't mentally, incapacitated. I just couldn't go buy hand controls and then drive a car. I had to go take classes on how to drive a car with hand controls, and then I had to go take tests, and I had to parallel park and everything else with hand controls.
I mean, you would want to. Though.
Yes, absolutely. I thought it was perfectly reasonable.
Right.
But so now here's where I would differ from a lot of my people on the left. I think that you should be able to test into something too. So like, your AR-15, maybe you need to test into that. Like maybe that's such a prolific killing machine as far as that is. Like it's designed so well, so light, carries so many rounds, all this other stuff, that you could test mentally, like aptitude test why, and the ability to use it, test into it, where you carry a permit that you have that gun. But a person that's like 21 years old can just get a FOID card and buy that gun. That seems to me like maybe a little bit. That's like handing
a
them.
rifle.
No, it's not. It's a Corvette. It's
No.
there's a car and then there's a Corvette. One is a little bit better at going really really
But
fast.
do you need a special license to get a Corvette?
No, but an 18-year-old shouldn't have one. And I mean, I've gone over this with my sons. Listen, it's too much fucking car. And my sons understand. I'm like, hey, you're going to get killed driving this thing because you can't. There's plenty of people that jump on a motorcycle and think they can drive it.
But a handgun with a 45 caliber bullet or
Well,
a 50
maybe
caliber bullet.
Right. I think maybe
It's
our
not-
starting point is that everybody needs to take some sort of test to get any gun, and then you need to go through some courses because of the damage that those rounds can do. Like, not every parent was my parent. Took me somewhere and had me shoot a roast. Not, you know what I mean? Like, these aren't things that happen. And my dad would be like, hey, see what happened there? To the roast. If you screw around and that's your thigh, you'll never walk again. So, like, those were things that were, that were put on me. The problem is my cat probably wants to join the, but those are things that were put on me that I don't believe are putting on everyone. And I think that they were things that were very good that were put on me. So I think that they should have that. There should be a class where a guy's like, all right, all 30 of you, we're going to go out to this field. Joe here is going to shoot a roast. And then I'm going to show you what this does to it. And there is no surgeon that could put this back together if it's your ass or your back or this kind of a thing.
I don't have a problem with that.
Right. So all I'm saying is
You have to take
test
a
into
driving
it.
test.
It's a massive responsibility. So let's test it out. In the testing process, the instructor could be like, is this person fucking wacky? Is there something wrong? And if they see some red flags, for a better use of a better term, they could be like, all right, listen, you've done all the things that it takes to get the gun, but I believe I'm marking you down as someone that needs to go talk to somebody about this too, because I think you might have some problems as to the things you've said. I've heard you saying, like, I can't wait to get all these guns and shoot some motherfuckers, or, you know what I mean? Like, or you keep saying, don't touch me and there's no one by you. Like there's a problem.
Clear.
Right. There's an issue. But the people that are Second Amendment crusaders right now, their heads are exploding because they're going, everybody's just going to say this about me. And I worry to myself.
That's a valid concern.
I worry to myself, though, that, do you really hear voices? Is there a problem? Should there be, like, maybe... I always look at someone and be like, all right, if we just talked about how there's, like, 1.2 guns per capita in this country, or somewhere along those lines. If you feel that you need 40 or 50 guns, and I know people that have more than that, unless you're like selling or like there's some, I know guns. I know guns very well. There's only so many calibers you can buy. There's only so many tools that you, like, I'm a contractor. I don't need 50 toolboxes to go to a job because I've got everything I need to do the job. So, like, why do you need, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just, some of it seems excessive, and I get this, I'm not saying that they can't have it. All I'm saying is, can we just look you over a little bit closer because you got a lot of firepower there. There's a lot of trouble you could cause with that situation. My feeling is it's overkill. Why are you doing that? Someone needs to ask that question.
Because, like, for me, it's a hobby, and I have a collection, and
Great. Then the person will look at you, talk to you, and you'll be like, it's a hobby, I have a collection.
but I don't know why that would be a red flag, though.
Yeah, for me, it seems like something that's like, oh, wow. And I'm not saying it's a red flag if it's you. What I'm saying is, can we just talk to
But
you?
if you have a collection of knives.
Yeah, no, same thing. Let's talk to you for a minute and find out if you're all right. All I'm saying is, can I look you in the eye and let's have a talk? And just 5 minutes of your time. And if I walk away from it going, oh yeah, that's because people that are off, they let you know. Like you can only be. You ever been around someone that's got schizophrenia or something that's really, really, really going on with them?
Yeah.
How long does it take you to tell?
Oh, fairly quickly.
Right.
Yeah.
So if that person said to you, I have 60 guns in my basement, would you be like, oh wait, that'd be the red flag time, right? I mean, that'd be when I'd be like, hey.
I mean, if that's how they started.
He thinks
off
the neighbor's dog's
conversation,
talking to.
No, I would have to.
Right.
No, it would not. No.
Right. Okay. So I had some questions that came offline, online. In fact, my buddy Andy just sent me one, and he wants to know, what are your thoughts? Let me make sure I got the whole thing here, because I think it's longer winded. I think it just really. Okay. I'd like to hear your thoughts on a national gun registry. I think me and you talked about this.
National Gun Registry.
We talked about it, before the podcast.
I have no problem with a national gun registry.
You see why he has a problem, though, right? You understand why he has a problem?
Yeah.
He has a problem because he's and I don't know what Andy's got exactly. I've seen some of his guns, but we've never talked about it fully. But he feels like if you're a guy that there's a national gun registry and he's got 50 guns, the first person they're going to come for is the guy with the 50, because you got to wipe out that
Well,
threat
there's
first.
already a federal gun. I mean, your guns are registered up until a certain point.
I disagree. I have plenty of guns that
Every gun
I bought
that
from
leaves,
Will County cops that were not registered. They were not read. These were officers of the law who were like, "Hey, I got this breech load, clay shooting gun. You want to buy it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I like to shoot clay pigeons. That's fine." And I buy the gun, $1,200, give the guy the money, and I got the gun. So there's a lot of guns that are not registered. And then go to any truck stop. You can buy a gun from anybody on that lot half the time, and the fucking numbers are busted off the goddamn things. Those are things.
That's a federal crime.
Yeah, I understand that, but not to say every gun is registered. That's a blanket statement. That's just patently false.
Well, to some point, I mean, yes, there was not. Guns weren't registered up until a certain point. I can't exactly remember.
Right.
When that was, but now, when you're buying a gun from a gun store, it absolutely is registered when you do the background check.
Right.
So, I mean, I can't speak on illegal guns, but because that's not how I
operate. No, I got it. I understand.
But anytime I've bought a gun, which is always from gun store,
I bought some guns from gun shows. Those are considered person-to-person transactions. There's no background check, and there's no registry for that.
Well, I'm okay. I wish there was. I think that
to a point, you understand why they don't want that,
so when
right?
a gun leaves a factory, its serial number is registered to somebody.
Yep. Well, it's registered to Walmart or whoever's selling it now.
Right. When they do your background check, that serial number
transfers to you. Yep, got it.
So that is then in your possession. When you go and do a private sale, say you want to sell that gun.
Now, so in Illinois, the background check doesn't work that way, from my understanding. The background check works that I get my background check when I get my FOID card, and I got my FOID card. My FOID card, what was that FOID card? I think it's 10 years my FOID card lasts. I still have my, it's a long time. So if 5 years in, I do something and I'm no longer able to have guns, I still have a FOID card unless someone has taken that FOID card from me situation. Now, there's a waiting period to buy a gun, so I show them the FOID card, and then they run it then, and then, but they just check to see if the FOID card is valid or not. They don't do a background check every time I buy a gun. They just check to see in Illinois.
I've always had to do a background check every time I bought a gun.
In Illinois?
At a gun store. In Indiana.
Indiana, right. Okay, so Illinois' way around that is I have a FOID card in my possession. There's a number on the FOID card. They run, I think it's my driver's license number or something like that, but they run that number. If it doesn't come back in the system that it's valid, then I can't buy a gun. If it comes back valid, then it means I haven't had any felonies, I haven't done anything to lose my FOID card, and I'm still good. Mm-hmm. So it's a quick way to, it's a really, really mini background check. I could be beating the shit out of my wife constantly at home. As long as it's not a felony, I'm okay. In Illinois, I'm fine unless it's a felony. You can get a FOID card. That's the prohibiting thing. I know Tina asked something about, and I don't know anything about it. I don't have a medical marijuana card. But her concern, and I don't understand this one. I don't know where they're coming from with it. Maybe you can shed some light on it.
It absolutely makes no sense. I know about it, but it makes no sense to me. I think it's
something about not being able to have a FOID card if you have a medical marijuana card.
If you have a FOID card, can you get a medical marijuana card? Yes, you can.
I think it's the other way around that you can't, right? If you have a medical marijuana.
Either way.
Oh, you can get
Either way, you can. You can have both.
Okay.
However, the difference is you can, if you have both, since the federal government does not. Medical marijuana is decided by the state.
Yeah.
It's not decided by the federal government. Federal government considers it still illegal.
Yeah.
So therefore, you cannot, if you have a medical card, you cannot buy a gun in a gun shop because they cannot. You'll fail the background check.
Okay.
Because the background check is through the federal government.
Yeah, right.
You can, however, buy one through private sale, which is run through the state, who allows the marijuana.
Right.
So you can buy a firearm.
Right, which that whole thing makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense to me.
Right. Well, that and then to extrapolate even further out. Okay, so somebody posted. It's another one of those stupid things that someone says. There's a lot of things that if you hear it and it sounds good and you want to believe it, you just take it and you go, I believe that, and you run with that. You just you don't even check into it. But they're like, there's 22,000 gun laws on the books. That is complete bullshit. We have 50 states in the union, and state gun laws. So the problem with gun laws are, some gun laws aren't to keep guns out of your hands. In Illinois, you're not allowed to hunt with a rifle. We're too flat landed here, so the round carries too far. You could kill somebody on a golf course half a mile away. If you shoot on an upward trajectory with a .22, it carries and carries and carries. So you're not allowed to do that. That's a gun law. That's not a gun law that keeps that's a gun law that keeps somebody safe. That's not in a hunting situation, but that's not a gun law that pertains to keeping guns out of the hands of people that might do a mass shooting. Those are not the gun laws. And then when you have city ordinances that are gun laws. I mean, you have county ordinances.
I can't even keep up with Chicago.
Right. Well, Chicago has all the gun
laws. All the time.
The Chicago gun laws have to be the way they are because of the amount of people that are all stacked on top of each other. But local gun laws make no fucking sense in a society where we don't have a checkpoint Charlie. No one checks you when you drive into Chicago. So that means I could have just come from Oklahoma, filled my trunk with show guns, just fucking filled my trunk all the way, drive right into the projects in Chicago, open my trunk and start selling guns. Because they're going to catch me in Chicago and fucking throw me in jail if they catch me. But nobody stopped me from bringing these guns in. That's how all the guns got into Chicago.
Gun shows. Okay, so my understanding of gun shows is that out-of-state residents cannot just go home with a gun.
That's not true. Because gun shows, some of them are treated almost like a flea market. So I think Indiana just recently, maybe in the last 7 or 8 years, changed theirs where it's a little stricter. But if you go to Arizona, and you live, say you live in Arizona and you've got all your guns, your collection, and one day you just decide, I don't want guns anymore. I don't want anything to do with, something bad happens, and you're like, I don't want anything to do with guns, no guns. You can take all your guns just like you would do a flea market, go to the gun show, and sell your guns off. Like you're just putting your wares on a table, and you sell your guns, and you're selling it person to person. That's it. That's the gun show loophole in a layman's terms as far as it goes. You're just selling your stuff because it's your stuff.
I think it depends on the gun. I also believe that Illinois residents buying, or any out-of-state resident still has to wait the 3-day waiting period.
Not at a gun show. I walked into gun shows, bought long guns, not handguns, but long guns. There's no waiting period. Just buy it's a person-to-person transaction, so it's no different than when I bought it from the cop. I gave him the $1,200. He gave me the gun.
Okay.
I'm saying a person-to-person sale. If you had one of your guns in Illinois, I want to say now Illinois has made it where I still need to register that gun even when I buy it person-to-person. So if you had a gun that I was really
through the state,
right,
you do register.
If you had a gun that I really wanted to buy, and like, oh Karen, I want that gun. I hound you for it, and you're like, fine, I'm going to sell you this gun. You could sell me that gun right now. We still have to register it, but you're not going to hold it for 3 days from me.
Especially in Chicago, you have to go online and register.
Right, but you're not going to hold the gun, is what I'm saying. You're not going to keep it from me.
I mean, there's nobody's watching us.
Right. And I like the waiting period makes sense to me.
I'm holding it for 3 days, but I don't
believe you have to. Right. I don't believe there's anything that says you have to. But a gun show, or gun shop, you do. And the reason is and I understand this. It's readily, most person-to-persons are like, just like how I explained. Karen, I want that gun, sell me that gun. And you sell me that gun. But a gun shop is a place where someone that's pissed off could just go in there and buy a gun.
No, not a gun shop.
No. I'm saying the reason that the waiting time is in a gun shop is that way. It's because they don't want someone to walk in there pissed off and buy a gun. So now you come in there pissed off, you go to buy a gun, the guy's like, oh no, you got to wait. He's like, what do you mean I got to wait? There's a cooling off period. That's so you don't go shoot your wife when you go home. You know what I mean? So I get that. That makes a lot of sense. I don't think I've seen anybody that's ever upset about that.
No.
I was surprised about it the very first time I bought a Remington pump 870 pump shotgun.
Ooh, I have one.
Yep, and I went in I don't know, it was Walmart or somewhere where I bought that gun, and I was like planning on hunting. I think it was like a Friday, and I'm like, wait a minute, I can't get it till Monday. And they're like, yeah, you can't, 3-day waiting. I'm like, So and I didn't know, I was just a kid. But I was a kid that walked in and I knew, what I wanted, and I knew, how to use the gun and all that other stuff. I would just like to see, and I took I was an NRA member. I took a safety course as a kid and everything else. The NRA was a different thing when I was a kid than it is today. It's more of a lobbying institution now. I don't even see, we used to get the stuff in the mail all the time for the safety courses and stuff like that. I don't even know if that's available. Does the NRA do safety courses anymore?
You know what? I honestly couldn't tell you.
Would that be a
one
question?
way or
Yeah.
the other. I could have swore I saw something come across my feed one time for
Gun safety class?
It was more like an affiliation with the NRA, but it wasn't really.
The NRA used to do turkey shoots and all that other
Yeah.
stuff too, and I don't see any of that stuff. It's not a shooting organization anymore. It's more of a gun rights lobbyist sort of situation is what I see it as.
I mean,
Let me pull up some of
gun
the
rights
questions.
have been under fire pretty heavily in the last 10 years.
Okay, so I would say that it's been advantageous for gun manufacturers to even drum up, because gun sales are way down right now because Trump's president. But when Obama was president, gun sales and ammunition sales.
That was very losing that right to
but
have them.
That's not how. So I always made this comment that the person that could take your guns won't be a Democrat; it'll be a Republican. And this populist president that you have right now could do it. He outlawed bump stocks, which maybe you don't care about. I don't care about it either. Or do you? Is that something you enjoyed using?
No, that to me is kind of hillbilly stuff.
Right. Okay. Right. I never had any use for that at all, because obviously I'm not going to shoot more than one round anyway. But that's something that he took away. Obama let you carry a gun on an Amtrak. Obama let you. I mean, these are things he signed into law. He let you carry a gun into a national park. That was not legal before he came. So if anything, that guy expanded your gun rights. He didn't take them away. I mean, there's not one thing that he did taking away wise during his 8 years. But Trump has already done the bump stocks, and I think he's talking about expanding back. It's things that you're okay with too, that I'm okay with. But there's other people that are not okay with expanding background checks. Like, they don't want...
I don't understand why.
I don't know, and I'm glad to hear it, because honestly, I thought maybe the news was lying to me, because they keep saying stuff like 90% of NRA members are fine with universal background checks, which means everybody's got to get a background check. Now, if you look up online, and I know everything online is not always true, there are states that there's no background check. There's just not, they just don't have that. Illinois doesn't want the FOID card. Like an identification card that says you're okay to buy this stuff. So, like, I don't know in some states whether there's, I think some states a difference between buying the gun or buying the ammunition, which makes no sense to me. Obviously, if you're buying ammunition, you're not going to throw it at somebody. You've got the gun to put it in. You're just as dangerous with the ammunition as you are anyway. But, like, there's a map that I pulled up.
With that.
Right. Well, there's a map I pulled up, and they had, like, all the distinctions on the different states, and I want to say Arizona was the least laxed state as far as that goes. But anyways, I would like to see simple things as far as gun laws go, but they're only, for me, they only make sense on a federal level. State level doesn't matter. If Indiana decided that you had to have all this stuff going on to buy a gun, like they were doing psychological tests and everything else, wouldn't matter. I could be a crazy batshit motherfucker and go right into Indiana, because there's nothing stopping me in a free country from driving from state to state. So the only way to do anything is on the federal level. So that takes, the Senate and the Congress to pass laws that way. And then, because the other ones just don't make any sense. But the gun registry people are really upset about, and then I've got a whole list of, and I don't know, we must have caught fire here, because we had a lot of questions earlier. I've got a lot more that have come in just since. And in fact, Andy was so worried he sent me a personal text like, better ask her about this, man. All right, Tina's with it says the thing there. Okay, and then Trina says, why should my rights be infringed? I think I answered that on my end, but I think that your rights should be infringed if you're. I don't think your rights should be infringed if you're deemed completely sane and like capable of doing it. But I don't think that we should give. I'll go further and say I think that, like I said, we should open up to testing into, if someone wanted a fully automatic machine gun and only time you're going to use it was at a range somewhere and you to check it in, I think if it makes you happy, you should do it. Like, that's fine. If that's what there are guys who really love just blasting off.
What do you mean by checking in? Leaving it there?
Yeah, leave it there. Yeah.
No.
Why?
No.
You can still carry your handgun home. Just the fully auto. You think a fully automatic machine gun should be on the street?
On the street or going back to your own home?
Well, it could be on the street then. The kid at Sandy Hook shot his mother and took the gun to the school.
With a fully automatic rifle?
No, I'm not saying that. But you're not allowed to have fully automatics right now.
Well,
I'm saying you should make it that guys should be able to obtain it.
Yeah, and there's steps to take.
Right.
But
right. Well, I'm saying that it should be more.
It's very difficult, and it takes a very long time.
Good. Because otherwise, what do you need that rifle for, right? Like, right. I'm just saying, I'm open-minded about it, but I believe that if you feel like your rights are being infringed because we want to make sure that psychopath. Right now, if you're on a terrorist no-fly list, you can still buy a gun. Does that seem right?
No.
That's true. That's totally true. If you are on a terrorist no, you can't fly in a plane. You can still buy a gun. I'm 100% positive that's 100% true.
Right.
So if you feel like your rights are infringed because you could possibly I think if you're ever put on a terrorist no-fly list, something's wrong. Like, you're doing something that's wrong. So I don't feel like my rights are infringed now.
I mean, I don't see how that is even. If you're that if you're on a no-fly list, you can go buy a gun.
Yep, positive. I'm 100% sure of it. 100, without a doubt. There's no reason. I have nothing to gain by lying to you about this. 100% positive. You can be on a terrorist no-fly list, and someone should Google it. And
wouldn't that be one of those red flags?
Nope. No. Well, they're only talking about putting the red flag laws in place. They aren't there now. Okay, so Trina, that was a little too basic. I don't know why should my rights be infringed? I don't know how to answer that for you. Okay, and then Tina asked again, do you believe that the rise in mass shootings is because of an increase in antidepressants?
I think it's because of an increase in the media coverage.
Yeah, thanks.
And I think these people that are doing these horrific things shouldn't have their faces all over the place. They're made into representatives of people that are
well, we definitely treat people with mental illness different than we did 30 years ago. 30 years ago, we had a lot more institutions that these people were institutionalized, and during the Reagan years, they made laws. I'm not saying Reagan did. I'm just saying during the 80s, they made laws to close a lot of those state-run facilities down, and they sent those people home. So now you got people that are schizophrenic that are living at home, which, if you hear voices, if you think the neighbor's dog's talking to you, you probably shouldn't be around anyone that's got guns.
I think, yeah, I mean, a lot of kids that are depressed now, they're seeing these wacko kids with shooting up schools, being famous. Everybody wants to talk to them. Everybody wants an interview. Everybody wants to hear what they say on TV.
Right.
So
if the government came to you, Karen, and said, all right, Karen, we've got a mass shooting problem in this country, and we do. And if you look at the other countries, we have the most of that going on. So maybe it's not the biggest problem in the world. Maybe 400,000 people die of tobacco every year. We haven't outlawed that. But Karen, we think that you're smart enough, you're gun savvy enough, and you have probably the people's ear that have guns. What Lisa Henson asked this question, what laws do you think could be in place to help reduce mass shootings? Is there anything you could fathom that would, they put you in charge of it, and what do you try? Even if it doesn't work, you just don't shit at the wall to see what sticks.
I mean, like I said, I have no problem with background checks. I have no problem with if there's a perfect way. So
you're saying universal
laws.
Background checks and expanded background checks. So the background check's a little bit more in depth than it is right now.
But it's so hard to say because variables can happen in somebody's life that you don't see coming or that you can't prepare for, or I mean, they might. We all know people that have seen fine one day and a month later.
Yeah, I'm not saying I don't think anyone thinks there's a cure-all. I don't think there's any way to stop them all.
There's no easy solution.
Right.
And I mean.
Well, okay, I'm not asked the question, you are, but I know that in other countries, gun buybacks have been successful. And if you look at a situation like Chicago, my dad worked at 72nd and Perry in Chicago at a Dominic's, and he said once a week he goes into the John and there's a 22 sitting on top of the toilet paper because they're all carrying a 22 in the small of their back. They come in there and take a shit, take the 22 out, put it on top of the toilet paper, take a shit, wipe their ass, and then they leave. They forget that they put the gun on top of there. So everybody's packing heat in the ghetto. It's just a gun, but that 22 is a piece of shit. It's a some shitty gun they got off the street. If the government said, listen, no questions asked, we're not going to look at you at all. You come in with that 22 and we'll give you $100. Those people all need money. They come in with those guns. They go, I'll get another gun. And that one only cost me $50. And it takes a gun off of the street in the city. Am
I going to turn in?
You're not going to. No, but no one's asking you to. What I'm saying is anyone who wants to, and usually it's going to be someone who needs money. So instead of robbing the liquor store, I just go turn this piece of shit gun I got in.
As
that
long as it's, not mandatory.
Right,
sure.
right. No, I don't think that some of the countries that they're mandatory. I mean, I think Australia was like mandatory, but they bought them back.
They were mandatory to an extent. I
Right.
think you could keep your handguns. You had to go through a little process with that. I'm not real, for sure about it, but I know like rifles and long guns were turned in. But yeah, you could to this day you can still have handguns in Australia, and
Right.
yeah, I mean,
Right,
they
but
just
whatever
say they
they've
got
done
rid of the
has.
long guns, but they're still killing people with handguns over there.
Sure. But not the. I think what the mass shooting that they had was killed 52 at one time, and that was the turning point.
familiar.
I mean, New Zealand did something like right after the mosque shooting. They did something right away, and there's no arguing the statistics with Australia. There's people that put out memes and stuff like that. Just because you see it on the internet, Australia's had a reduction in mass shootings drastically. Now, do they still kill each other with handguns? Yes, I'm sure they do. But they've had less situations where somebody in the mall just is like walking around picking people off as far as that goes. And I don't know if they did something, for all I know, they did something else too. They did something about mental health. I don't know.
I'm not sure. Maybe they're. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, on this podcast, no one claims to be some expert. I had Karin on here because I know that she is in a gun culture. I know that you're a logical person that I've talked to that I didn't feel like, this is just going to go fucking off the rails right away. And, it hasn't. But, okay. So Jerry asks, why don't, and it's funny, like all these, I love Jerry, and I like a lot of these people from either sides on here, but they always ask a question that's trying to show their point of view a little bit. But why don't other first world countries that have mental illness, poverty, video games, and drug problems have more mass shootings as a percentage of population than the USA? So, essentially, why the USA? Why do we have so many? And I mean, you can't deny.
Because we have a lot of kids that aren't taught respect. They're grown up. I mean, they're raised to be very entitled and fighting authority, and I just don't. Switzerland, for example, every male in the household is required to do some sort of military service, and
I don't think it's just male. I think it's male and female.
I'm not sure. Maybe
I think they do. But and I think I looked into it. Switzerland's not just so it's just service, not military service. So you can join their Peace Corps. You can join like anything you do, but they want you to have 2 years of service to your country. So it's
which I love. I think that's great.
I think it's terrific too. I actually told my sons, I said, listen, you're going to go to college, you're going to get this engineering degree, whatever you're going to do. I go, you guys have the ability you'll always have a home with me. So why don't you just spend 2 years digging wells in Africa or doing something that, go fly somewhere and do something that would be an experience for you at 24 years old that you could never, get back. You're never going to have that time and that energy and everything else when you get older. So go do that for 2 years. I go, it'll look really good on your resume anyway, as far as that goes. And you served your country. I mean, that's still service to your country because you're one of the people that's providing aid. So, but I believe that Switzerland, it's every able-bodied person is supposed to be out there for 2 years.
I'm not sure if it's women or not, but I know for a fact that
they got a big gun culture in that country. Yep.
And you're allowed to keep your rifle after your term of service is over. So, I mean, almost every household in Switzerland has a rifle.
Right. I saw a documentary on Switzerland, and the gun culture's it's still a lot different than it is here. The high capacity magazines those aren't legal there, and the rifles they went through at gun shooting events and stuff like that, everyone's shooting the guns that I was shooting. It's a mountainous, wilderness country. They're not shooting AR-15s. I don't want to.
They're shooting.
I'm sure there's someone that's got one. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the rifle that you get is not.
No. Well, it's a military rifle.
Yeah, I don't know
And
if that's the truth or not. I don't think that they're sending them home with a 30-round magazine and like go ahead and.
I'm not sure about the 30 round, but
Right.
I know it's a very big, heavy rifle.
I think that a lot of those people are not taking that option to take the rifle home.
And they are shooting distance.
Right, but they're not taking that rifle home because I want to say I looked up the per capitas on Switzerland, and it's like 4.49. So like half of the people in the country have a gun, and the other, or all you need to have is one guy with 3 guns, and then you got 3 people that don't have guns, or 6 people that don't have guns then. So our per capita is more guns than people.
We have more guns than people.
We're the only country that's got more guns than people.
More guns than people, for sure.
Right. I think the very next one is 0.62 or 0.67 on there. So it's a drastic, we're a little gun crazy in the country. We love some guns.
But we have a very small percentage of gun owners. I mean, if they can even be registered, are using their guns.
Right. No, just the numbers that I saw were that we have, like you said,
there's at least 10 million ARs.
Right. I personally don't know how they would ever do that. I think they'd have to do a voluntary buyback and make it where they gave you more than what the gun was worth, and then someone turned them in. They turned them in. If they didn't, then they didn't, and that'd be totally up to you.
They would never give you more than what it's worth. And
I don't know. I'm just saying, if they want to get off the street, they better do something. I'm not for anyone coming to your house and taking your guns in any way. All right, Anthony. Jeez, this just made a smart ass. Do you sleep with the same gun each night or switch them up? Same gun?
No.
No, you switch them up?
I swap them out.
Okay. There you go. We answered Anthony's question. It's preposterous, but we answered it. All right. Okay. Describe the process. Describe the process required to purchase firearms, including required permits and how to get those. He's got 3 questions. So, the process. For me, the process is pretty simple.
I can't remember 25 or so years ago when I got my FOID card in Illinois. I'm sure it's changed by then.
I got my FOID card renewed 7 years ago, and you just go in. You need a picture ID. They might have it different now. You can do it online and just click a picture in, email it to them. But you filled out a form, pretty much got all your information, so they can background check you, look you up, and then it takes a couple weeks. They send you out the card because you sent in a picture with your form. Now you have the card. You can go into the store, buy the gun, wait the waiting period. Handgun's a longer wait period than a long gun.
3 days in Illinois.
I thought it was 3 and 5 or something like that. I thought it was 3 for. I know it's a certain amount of time for a long gun, and I thought it was a little longer for a handgun. I don't do handguns, so I don't care. But because, like I said, it's not a defensive. It's not a thing.
But when I went to get my license in Indiana, I just went to the police station and they took my fingerprints. They had me answer 50 questions, and that was about it. I mean, they did my background check, and that was it.
Right. Which is good. I mean, like I said, I'd just like to see it expand a little bit more. I'd like to see someone caring whether you're batshit crazy.
They did change. Actually, in Indiana, I didn't need a photo on my card.
Really?
On my carry card, yeah. So now they do have the photo IDs.
Oh, so that's an upgrade. So they upgraded to a photo, which is good. They should have.
Photo now.
Yeah, because boy, you could falsify that too easy.
Right? It was.
Holy cow! All right, so okay, Tim's second for those possibly interested in buying a gun. Is there a way to try before you buy? Yes, there is actually.
Yeah.
Megasports let you shoot whatever you want in there. I don't know if you need a FOID card.
I think you need a range officer with you.
Probably, but still, you're trying before you buy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you can go into mega sports and do that.
But you cannot. But you also have to go with somebody that has an active FOI card. You can't just, if you're a newbie and you're
Yeah,
like,
you can't just grab a gun and start shooting. Right. That sounds right. And I believe that most of those places, his other ask is that is there an instructor or classes you could take, and I believe there's always classes you could take.
Yeah, Shoot Point Blank has classes.
Yeah, right. There's all kinds of stuff like that.
And they always have a range officer
Yeah,
on it.
right. Okay, why are sawed-off shotguns illegal while handguns are legal?
That is something that I cannot answer. Sawed-off shotguns, because their barrels are so short, they're just not.
I think it's concealed. I think it's too much power that you don't have to conceal.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can. It's easy. It's easier to conceal, yes. But I mean, I really don't see why you need a certain license for that. Class 3 license.
Well, I don't see why.
Because your range is so much shorter because that barrel is shorter.
Right.
It won't shoot as far.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that a sawed-off shotgun is the perfect defense weapon because when it's sawed off, it opens up so fast in front of you that you're going to spray everything in front of you. It's a terrible situation in the crowd because you're going to shoot everybody.
Exactly.
But if you were, in your house and you had double-aught buck in the shell where there's like 12, whatever they are, like 32 caliber BBs in there. That thing goes right through a wall and everything else. If there's somebody in the place and you hit that with them, they fly. I mean, that's a lot of force going after them. I mean, it's just, you have to aim.
Range, yeah.
You have to aim shit. You just kind of point and hip shot and you got it.
Right.
Okay, Jeff just...
I never really found a good answer for that one.
No, I don't have a good answer for that one either. To me, it seems like if sawed-off shotgun is going to be illegal, there's all kinds of other things you can make illegal that are far more deadly than a sawed-off shotgun. All right, just asking about the podcast. All right, Keith says, can you comment, and this is, for me, these are nonsense. The UK, it doesn't make any difference to me. Can you comment on the UK's new push to ban points on, I don't even know if they're doing this or not, this is something that he's saying, on cooking knives and how their stabbing epidemic, 47,000 annually, is or isn't similar to our firearms issue. I have a million problems with this. The problems are, we still stab, if you look up the stabbings in the U.S., we still have thousands of stabbings every year. And if you look up, and I did,
far more than AR-15 does.
Far more, yeah, absolutely, yeah, right. And that's why I'm not on board with the AR-15 thing being the biggest culprit. But the other problem with his statistics are 47,000. I believe the number's 44,000 that I looked up. That was last year, and 21,000 of those, they're just muggings. They're people that haven't hurt anybody. They just have a knife. This is I think the problem that's trying to get solved, not even get solved, like just reduced, we just get a couple people not killed, is the mass shooting situation. The situation where you go to Walmart, some guy drives 3 hours because he knows a lot of Mexicans are there, and he shoots up Walmart because he's got, the ability with these semi-automatic weapons to do this. If he had a knife, yes, he may stab 2 people or 3 people, but someone's going to stop him before he can shoot 9 in 30 seconds.
I mean, you could also have people going Timothy McVeigh on...
Yeah, blow shit up. Right. In no way, shape, or form do I think that we could ever stop any killings.
You're not going to stop crazy people.
You're not. But can we make it more difficult? Because Timothy McVeigh is a perfect example. Once he did what he did, there's a red flag that goes up when you buy too much fertilizer now. That's how he made his bombs. So now the FBI is watching, and they have stopped all kinds of things. We give up our freedoms all the time for that security, right? Like the Patriot Act. We gave up all kinds of our privacy. There's a camera on this laptop. They're probably looking at me right now and like, oh, you're on a list, motherfucker. So, but there's all kinds of times that the Homeland Security has stopped the shoe bomber and like all these other fucking idiots that are trying to do something, which I don't know. You got to weigh that. You got to weigh that balance. For me, if we can reduce the amount of, I don't want to lead the world in mass shootings. I don't. Like, can we just not? Can we figure out a way to not lead the world in mass shootings? That'd be great. And if somehow,
well, we're gonna lead because we have more people in this country than most other.
No, we don't. India's got 5 times as many people as we do. China's got 3 times as many people as we do. Those are just 2 countries.
But
the per capita number is the only.
India's gun laws.
No, I don't know either. They probably don't even have fucking guns. I don't know. But what I'm saying is, the more people, you have to do the amount of people killed per capita, because this Chicago thing is such bullshit too. The Chicago thing. Listen, if you look at per capita, more people are killed with guns in St. Louis than Chicago. St. Louis we don't hear about though. But per capita, and if you go further out and you look at some small towns in Montana, well, there's only 200 people in there, and some guy gets killed. That's way more people than Chicago. There's 2.4 million people in Chicago, and a dozen people get killed on the weekend. It's still way too much. They need to figure out a way to get that to stop, and the only way they're going to get Chicago to chill out is they're going to have to do federal, where you can't drive out of Chicago, get a gun, and come back into Chicago. So that's my solution for it. I don't know if you have one or not, but so the stabbing thing. I don't know if they're taking away pointed knives or not. Like, that's just some story.
I think he's making a joke, but
oh, is he? See, I never know with Keith. I mean, I'd like to hear other points of view, but sometimes I think his jokes go over my head. Okay, so I'm gonna go by that. Okay, and then
that's how I took it anyway.
Our good friend Tom, who's I think that's how it is.
That
Tom. What you call it? He's the Captain Capitals. I'd love to hear Karen's view on the red flag laws. We kind of talked about red flag laws. I'm personally fine with them. Listen, if you're fine with profiling, if you're fine with stop and frisk, if you're fine with, hey, that guy looks like he's a terrorist, let's at least check and see if he's got a bomb in his shoes, then it seems to me that you should be fine with, hey, Stevie's a little fucking nuts, maybe he shouldn't have a bunch of fucking weapons. I don't know, but if that's what a red flag law is. Okay, what's the difference, Jim? What's the difference in if I protect and defend my family? I don't know if this is a joke either. Family at home with a handgun or an assault rifle. I'm still protecting and defending my family, right? And one may be more effective than the other. My problem is with that is I think it's the wrong weapon. Most people in the country live in a vinyl-sided shitbox, and if I have a long rifle with a high velocity round coming out of it, it can go through my house, through the next one, into the next one, and kill the baby in the bassinet. If I have a handgun and...
Are you talking about AR-15s?
He's not talking about AR-15s, he's just talking about a rifle. But anytime there's a rifle, that round carries further. It's more accurate, it drops less.
Well, there's a different kind of ammunition you would use for
the full metal jacket.
Defense.
Right.
And it would not travel that far. Absolutely not.
Well, like I said, if I was going to use a handgun...
In a lot of tests that I've seen, the handgun ammo will actually penetrate more than the AR.
Well, it depends on the round. A 22
it does depend on the round.
Right, a 20. Well, and then if you use a short jacket, that doesn't have as much load behind it either. But if I'm shooting a really big, a 44, that's not going to make it through stuff. But sooner or later, that's going to mushroom out where it's going to be too big, and it's not going to make it through stuff. But if I'm shooting a armor-piercing 223 round.
Well, you wouldn't use that for home defense.
You wouldn't use that for home defense. Well, some moron who thinks this is more deadly would absolutely buy that at Megasports. I'm just telling you. So my solution is fucking education and training, which you've had and I've had. My background is hunting. Yours is the gun rep stuff. My problem is that's not a requirement to buy the stuff. I could be any bozo in the world and I can go buy rounds that say razor shredders and all this other crazy shit. There's explosive rounds and shit like that.
Home defense. You
would hope
you need to use a different kind of ammo if you don't want to penetrate.
I think that some people think bigger is better in every situation.
Like your house, you have a brick house.
Yep, it's not going to make it through it.
Really, nothing will go through the brick.
Right.
A shotgun shell is probably would do the most damage, I would think.
Right. But it's still not going to go through a brick wall.
No.
All right, so Leanne, you're the drama looking for. Oh, she didn't have a question. Jerry again, would you support a gun tax on the manufacturer side that would be used to help victims of gun violence and their families when a mass shooting occurs? I don't think that's a viable solution myself. I don't like a tax. I don't think like a fund ought to be. Same way I don't want to see metal detectors in schools. I don't want to pay for shit. Fucking figure out how to not put the gun in the guy's hand that's going to do the dumb. There's fucking 390 million guns in this country, and we don't have that many shootings compared to the amount of guns that we have. So can we just figure out not to like get the fucking psychopath?
Right.
Don't let him have the fucking gun. I know that's going to infringe on somebody's rights, but maybe you're a psychopath.
But there's no perfect way to do that either.
Nope. But it's an imperfect way to let.
And trust me,
kids
the
get
gun community does not want this stuff to happen.
I think the gun community and manufacturing have
nails
invested.
on a chalkboard when it does.
Right.
It's like, oh,
goddamn.
why?
Well, okay, I'm glad to hear that, sweetheart. I really am. I mean, I think you're a nice person and everything else, but I think that and you're not one of these people that when there's a mass shooting goes immediately to their fucking computer. It's like, my Second Amendment rights to me. You don't do that.
No.
Other assholes do, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm feeling for these parents that lost a fucking kid. Now I got to look at social media, and you're being a dickwad with your fucking stupid Second Amendment post because you're so concerned that someone's going to take your fucking boom boom toys away. I don't need that shit. Like, just save it for some other time. I'm sorry to be harsh about it, but have a fucking heart, some empathy. Yes,
sure.
Right. Okay, all right, one more. Also, general question, can anyone show me where the word gun is used in the second, well, I don't think you're a Second Amendment crusader, and I'm certainly not. So, when someone says something like, in there it says, my right to bear arms should not be infringed. If I tell you can't have a tank, I'm not infringing your rights, am I?
No.
No. So if I told you, if they drew so all we're saying is that's the line. If they drew the line at AR-15, your rights wouldn't be infringed because you could still buy all kinds of handguns. You could still buy shotguns. You could still buy a .223 rifle. You just can't buy that military-style rifle. So technically, the Second Amendment.
Well, really, I mean, all right.
You don't like that. I got it. I understand that, and I want you to have the rifle because it makes you happy to have it. That's fine. What I'm saying is, if we're just looking at it from a lawyer's standpoint and saying this is what the Second Amendment says, I'm not infringing on your rights because you can still bear arms. You just can't bear those arms. You can't get a grenade launcher either. Do you know what I mean? Like
you actually can.
Well, no. What are you talking about?
You can.
I understand that, but the general public cannot just buy grenade launchers. Like, where do you buy the grenades? Just saying. Spent some time in Megasports. I never saw the grenade aisle. You know what I'm saying?
No, but I could go and I could buy fully automatic weapons right now if I wanted to,
Okay.
even though I don't have that classification. Even though I don't have that classification right now, but
right. But what does it take to? So that'd be a good one. What does it take to get that classification?
Okay, so first of all, it takes a lot of money because those kind of weapons could be $20,000-$30,000. Then you have to buy your stamp, $200 for each time you want to buy one of these things. So you have to buy a stamp.
Where does that money go to? Do you know?
It goes right to I don't remember where it goes. It goes to the federal government because it's a federal license.
So there's just revenue, probably.
Apparently.
Yeah. Okay. But is there any qualification for that? Like, do you have to go through? Does it have to see that you're mentally stable, or can the Sandy Hook kid just go in and buy a?
I don't know. Not that I'm aware of. But there is like.
Doesn't seem right.
I mean, you're waiting almost a year to get that weapon. So.
That wouldn't matter. The Las Vegas guy had planned the thing for over a year.
Was he?
That was.
Do you know that?
Well, I know you had the conspiracy theory on that one. What was the conspiracy theory on that one? I know I was being a pain in your ass with that, but I was. But I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. Look, so the only conspiracy theory that I like is that this is all the
I was there.
This is all the doesn't matter. This is all the Matrix. That's the only conspiracy theory that I like. That this is all a simulation. Like life is existential. We're not really here. You're just somewhere. This is all just a Matrix situation. That's the only one that I like because that's the only one that I can't prove. Like but other ones like no, the guy was fucking mentally ill and did what he did. But
well, I have my theories about what happened. I don't think anybody will ever know the real story about what happened.
I think the minutia, maybe the details, maybe not, but I think that the forensic investigation, somebody knows. Maybe they're not telling you. That'd be part of conspiracy theory. Like the government knows, but they're not going to let you know. Like Kennedy and like the UFOs at the Area 51. Somebody knows. They're just not letting that out.
No.
When you say anybody, no one will ever know. You mean the general public.
I mean, the general public will never know what really happened.
But it's all just speculation. There's no. If anyone had any proof, it wouldn't be us. Even if you were there, like there's millions of people in Las Vegas.
Well, yeah, of course, but yeah, no, I don't. I mean, how do you even foresee something like that happening?
No, and I don't. Well, okay.
How can you stop that from happening if you have? I mean, who would have thought it would happen?
The problem with that is the only way for you to stop that. If you look at the chain of ways that he acquired the rifles and everything else, the only way for you to stop that from happening is to ban those weapons, and that sucks. So I don't know. I don't want that to be, but I still can't deny reality. And the reality is, if we lived in a country like Great Britain where those weapons aren't available to anyone, then it couldn't happen because he could stand in that room in a hotel. In a hotel room at that distance with a handgun and not hit shit because it ain't making it there. He needed long rifles, high-powered cartridges, and that's how he made it. Because he was shooting from some distance, if you believe he was the guy shooting. He was shooting downward trajectory, so I mean they carried better and everything else, but a handgun was never going to make it there.
Okay, but if he wanted to kill people, he would have found a way to kill mass amounts of people. Where this show was right off the street. He could have stolen a semi truck and just plowed over everybody and killed more people.
Right, but you still, right. And okay, so like the Timothy McVeigh thing. Timothy McVeigh bought the fertilizer, made the bombs, blew up the Oklahoma building, and we haven't had another one of those since then because they put red flag stuff up.
Is that why?
Yeah, that's why. They've caught people trying to make bombs with fertilizer. And, I mean, I'm not saying that anything's going to be perfect. Something could get by them, no doubt. But the fact is, nothing has since then. Like they did take legislative action, and it changed it. There are countries that took legislative action, and statistically, it changed. Saying that you can't, they won't stop all killing, to me, that's not a viable point. Because I agree, it will not stop all killing. People have killed people since they just picked up a rock and hit them in the head with it. But if you take away the ability to kill lots of people at a time, if you had 5 people and knives, they still couldn't kill 30 people without somebody stopping them. I mean, maybe they could if they're really good with their knives. But chances are someone's going to overpower that person and get the knife, hold them down, whatever. Where the gun thing is just...
No, because, now everybody just pulls out a camera phone and videotapes it. Nobody stops anything. Right.
And just stand there and get stabbed. Right. No,
that's pretty kind of where we are now.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, I mean, I think that after this conversation, hopefully some people understand that I cannot find anyone on the left that's like, and I think that there's people out there, I just don't, maybe they don't live, we live in the Midwest, so there's a lot more guns and a lot more sportsmen and stuff like that. And I have a couple hunters coming on and stuff that wants like to take all guns. So I don't see that as I see people saying that all the time, that they're going to confiscate, like it's going to be, like the goofy Hitler stuff and everything else. Like that's all silly to me. It's just, we don't live in that world anymore. That's not I don't know. It's just not the same. I mean, even Hitler, when he was taking all the guns, they didn't have, you had a carbine.
We have 400 million guns in this country.
Right. So good luck.
400 million.
Right. They're not going to do it. Right. It won't happen. I got it.
I mean, what percentage...
But you agree we could do something that would...
What percentage of that 400 million current guns, I mean, isn't it a crime right now?
Yeah, but what if they did something buyback-wise that was funded to a point where it was advantageous for a third of those guns to get turned in? Like, that's a third of those guns.
Hey,
off.
if you want to sell your gun back, go ahead.
Right.
I mean, I have no problem.
You're saying
with
400
that.
million guns, so that means over 100. Right.
But if you want to, go for it. Whatever you want.
So, but if you enacted something like a massive gun buyback program, and you put in place universal background checks, and you put in more in-depth background checks, and you took it to the extent where you said, all right, we're going to do a little bit more on the mental health aspect as far as making sure people that are on those drugs don't have them. If you just did those things, anybody who's perfectly fit to have a gun and wants to hunt, wants to shoot paper targets, wants to do all that stuff, would still be able to do all that stuff, and you wouldn't have the nuisance of constantly batting away flies on social media of people who, and that's the thing that aggravates me when I see somebody arguing with you and they don't know the first thing about guns. I wish they would just stop talking. Like, you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to guns, but you're talking. So just don't talk, because you're not helping the situation. You're just coming off as really stupid, right? Don't you feel that they're really dumb? They're like,
Well, I mean, I would, if I can educate somebody, I will be glad to educate them.
Right. Private message, though.
But,
let's not do it out in the open. Right?
But yeah, no, I get it.
Right. So, but I mean, for all those steps were put in place, and then we saw a reduction in school shootings, mall shootings, grocery store shootings, because I mean, all it's going to take is somebody figuring out a way to get. The good thing we have going for us is that those situations are usually always lone wolf situations. You can never get three people together that are like, hey, let's go shoot a bunch of fucking people. So, because if you could do that, you could get three people to probably sneak an AR-15 in parts into a place.
Well, I think there's media responsibility, and we shouldn't be showing these kids' faces and making.
Let's add that to the right. Good. Add that to the list of things to do.
I think they should be faceless and not be made famous.
Right.
And I think that's a huge. I think that's a huge step that could be taken.
Good.
To
right. I'd love to see it happen. Right. I'm fine with that. I don't need to see their fucking face on
because these kids that are depressed and bullied or whatever, I mean, they're seeing, oh, look at this, they're getting so much attention. I'm gonna, I mean, I just don't see it being good giving these kids the spotlight that are doing these awful things.
I agree, and I'm a guy who, if I'm driving down the road and there's some asshole driving like an asshole, I have to speed up just to see what they look like. And I don't need to see what that guy needs to look like. I'm gonna be all right. I probably want to see what that fucking clown looks like that's shooting people, but I'll pass. That's fine if it makes it a situation that doesn't get more people killed. Well, good. I don't know if there's anything else that what do we miss? I know we had more stuff that we talked about on social on Messenger beforehand. If you don't think there's anything that's important that you wanted to get out there,
I will think of it while I'm driving down the road, I'm sure.
Come back and we'll talk about it, because I mean, the conversation was good, and I feel like I definitely feel like the things that we talked about were, so I like the podcast thing because we could talk about things in depth. We could talk about the different rounds. We could talk about the,
it's easier than typing.
Typing, you only type a little tiny bit, and then someone thinks you're an asshole, and they're gone. Fuck you.
And you don't get the same tone of voice or
vibe.
Vibe.
Right. Now, like I said, I'm sure I'm gonna have. I'm searching for, and I'm starting to get. I had 4,000 minutes of viewership on the podcast just last month. If somebody's out there and they have a viewpoint, I'll speak the exact same way I spoke to Karin. That is, I want all guns banned. I want the second. I've heard people say that the Second Amendment needs to be abolished, but not in the way that I think they just take that soundbite and they make that the thing. they say that's the only way that you're going to get change is if you abolish the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. And people that are gun rights people, their heads just explode at that even that sentence coming out of someone's mouth. But I've never heard anybody that was a gun grabber. But if you feel that all guns should be banned, that we should live in the UK, that all that kind of stuff, then bring your statistics, come sit down. I'll gladly have a conversation with you. Otherwise, that's all I got. I mean, I think that everything that we came up with seems perfectly reasonable. I believe everybody that should have a gun would still have a gun. Mm-hmm. And the gun of their choice, the AR-15 is fine. If you're not going to shoot it, I think people get worked up because of the way it looks. Like, it does look, it's an intimidating thing. It's
You're killing me with this.
I know.
You're killing me with
this. Listen. It looks awful sexy in your hand and all that stuff. That's great. But
that's not why I like them.
I'm just saying to you that it's distinctly different looking. It's the difference between a little skinny dude walking in and some bodybuilder walking in. You're like, holy shit, it's a fucking totally different looking animal. Even though they both are men, got a penis, an asshole, mouth, and fucking two eyes. It's different. So I think that's what triggers people. But I think that everybody who's triggered by that would, in the end, if they could feel like no one was going to have that weapon that would go shoot a bunch of people, had it, I think that pacifies them. Like, I don't feel bad about you having that gun. Mm-hmm. I feel bad about the guy that shoots 30 people having that gun. That's the thing I'm worried about. So the 409 people that were killed last year with that gun, that's my problem.
I have a problem with the 7,000.
No, I have a problem with that too. But I'm saying to you, the guy who obtained that gun is my problem. But he's my problem if he obtains any gun. He shouldn't have any gun because he could kill two people.
I completely agree with that.
Right. The AR-15 is.
It's just how do you know who's.
Right. I think you have to pass laws that try and find that out. And I don't care if they don't work. I think when you have people with dead 6-year-olds in their arms, you, as a country, you have to produce something. Even if it doesn't work, you got to try it. Okay, we tried this, still more issue. Okay, fuck that. Let's try this. You got. And
I don't want to sound insensitive.
Go. Yeah, say.
But there have been far more 6-year-olds killed in drunk driving accidents.
Right, but that's
far
still
more.
Right. But we have definitely. If me and you got a DUI when we were 18 years old or 22 years old, it's a totally different animal than if you got a DUI today. It used to cost $2,000. I knew a guy I was working construction with. We were on the roof, and he's like, "I want to buy your truck from you." And I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "Bud, can you keep it in your name?" And I'm like, "Well, fuck no." And he goes, "Well, I've got 9 DUIs." I stood up on the roof and I said, 9. He has 9. Who the fuck would give you car keys after fucking 5? You know what I mean? So no, I wouldn't sell you my truck for $1 million and keep it in my name. You're going to get another DUI and it's going to be in my name. No. Right. But that was then. He could get 9 DUIs and afford, pay them out. Today, it'll cost you fucking $10,000 if you have a DUI. And you can't get 9 of them. You'd be in jail. Like, that's it.
I don't even know how it gets to that point.
I don't know. This was, I was 19 years old or whatever. But what I'm saying is we have made things tougher and tougher in that situation. So I don't understand why we can't make things tougher. I don't understand
why we're making things tougher for AR-15 owners.
I don't know. I'm telling you, I think it's the looks. I know.
Damn it.
Right. I'm not saying it's right. I'm just saying that it looks intimidating. It looks the same. It's the same thing you see as the guy that's in Afghanistan and he's running around clearing the village, and you have this in your hand, and they're like, hey, right, because it is. You're right. More people are killed but so here's the slippery slope that you're on. If you stand rigid with the AR-15, the next thing that they say, there was a guy that was just on YouTube the other day talking with the Beto rally, and a lady said, the AR-15 is not the fucking same thing you did. Mm-hmm. The next comment was, I am a survivor of Columbine. I was in the school when those guys shot all those people at Columbine, and most of the people were not killed with an AR-15. I would like to see all semi-automatic weapons banned, because that's what they use. They use semi-automatic rifles and handguns, and they killed all those teenagers in there at Columbine. So my thing is if you don't do something to reduce this situation, and I know, I don't think it should be the AR-15, but if we don't do these other things that we talked about, it's going to be the AR-15. I'm telling you, that thing looks too ominous, and they're going to do that, and then
But
if that doesn't,
it's going after the wrong animal.
it is exactly. But here's the problem: the next thing they're going to do something next, then, right? They're not going to go, okay, fine, take the AR-15s back, let's try something else. They're going to go, okay, we took the AR-15s, that didn't work. We're going to take all of the semi-automatic handguns now because that's what they're using, and then you're going to lose those too. I'm telling you, at some point the tipping point's going to be there, and we're going to do something. The demographic is changing. Every time there's a mass shooting and just 20 people get killed, think about how many people do you know that love you, like you very much. A lot. More than 100 people probably, right? That you would say in your life that like you very much. There'd be more than 100 people that would be very, very sad, maybe life changing, if they found out you were murdered in a grocery store getting, bananas and eggs today with a semi-automatic 9mm, Beretta you were shot with. So that adds to the other side. So the tipping point's coming. I'm telling you. I'm watching, and probably 10, 15 years ago we were nowhere near it, but we are getting there right now. There are Republicans that are saying we got to do something. I mean, Marco Rubio is saying we've got to pass more gun laws. He's in Florida. He's a fucking Republican. That's a backward-ass state if there ever was one. So I'm just saying that something needs to be done.
I mean,
if it's not reduced, it's going to be bigger. They're going to do more. And I say that, and immediately I think there's some little part in people's brains that goes, this motherfucker wants to take all my fucking guns. And that's not what I want. I've been through this for fucking 2.5 hours now. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying I want you to keep your fucking guns, but you better do something to stop this other thing from happening, because
I mean, how do you stop somebody that flips out one day?
I think the only thing you can do is stop them from having
the people around that person could
all you can do is stop them from having
them.
the ability to kill 30 people is all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. And they're going to do something. They have done it in other countries. This is two people that have a gun culture that are talking. What if I sat someone in the room that had never held a gun in their life, never has any desire on it, never been around it? They would disagree with both of us. They would be like, fuck that, fuck all that. I don't need any. Like, I've never had a gun. I never lived in a house with a gun. Here I am alive, breathing. My grandparents are breathing. Like, they would say that we're absolutely crazy for me to have a pile of guns over there. Like, what? Why do you have a pile of... I have a pile of guns, a crossbow. Like, I got all kinds of fucking weapons. I don't know if we're shooting bunnies and shit, but like,
Well, yeah, all my weapons have different purposes.
Yeah, right.
Competition, hunting.
See, now I think that's a viable thing that's on the rise. The competition, the shooting, and I find it enjoyable myself. I find it a little too expensive as far as like the rounds and stuff. Yeah, it's like super expensive. But it's a free country. I want to keep it a free country. If it makes you happy to go shoot paper targets or any of that kind of thing, then that's fine. From a strictly hunting point of view, ever see the movie The Deer Hunter?
I have not.
Oh, you should see
I
that.
know. I haven't seen any movies.
Okay, really? Oh, good Lord. So The Deer Hunter, Robert De Niro was the best hunter out of all of them, right? He was the most serious guy out of all of them. And his best friend was Christopher Walken's. And the rest of the guys they went hunting with, there's a bunch of them. They're all fucking schmoes. You would not want to hunt with them. They're out there blasting they're doing all this dumb shit and everything else. And De Niro's line was one shot, one kill. One shot, one kill. And so, that to me is important. So, I could buy a box of shotgun shells and it would last me the whole season because there's 25 shells in there. I'm going to shoot 25 pheasants.
Oh, okay. So I've never bird hunted. So
right. I'm just saying, it's one shell per bird. That's all I need because that's what I'm going to do. when we used to see from a purely hunting standpoint, when we used to see people shooting paper targets, they just used to giggle like it was a silly thing in my mind. Now people think that people shooting stuff for eat is probably silly. Somebody does, you know what I mean? That doesn't hunt, and I think there's people that have guns that don't hunt, but to me that's just weird. Like growing up where I grew up.
Yeah, I don't know. Shooting paper targets is kind of fun.
Yeah, right.
Well, you have to.
Right.
I mean,
I've never shot a paper target in my life.
Your optics, and you have to practice. And
I guess I've shot a paper target that way, but more like we set up a piece of plywood, we set up the sandbags, and then we dial in our sights that way. So I mean, different things, but again, I come from a place where I want to see mass shooting stops, and if you're a gun advocate, wouldn't it be better to see no mass shootings?
Yeah, I would love to never see it happen
from a strictly selfish point of view, isn't it better? Because if that happens,
but in the same token, I want to keep my shit.
I agree with you, and I want you to keep your shit. Absolutely, I agree. All right, let's wrap it up here. Please, I don't do this for money. I know I can see the analytics. I got a ton of viewership. I got, like I said, 4,000 minutes last month. I did 2 podcasts last month, and that was it. Subscribe. There's nothing to it. It's the little red button down in the corner there. It does nothing. You will not get emails. All it does is the next time that you get on YouTube, there will be a little red dot on your notifications. It'll tell you that there's a new episode of my conversations with people who know stuff. If you're listening to this on Apple or Google Play, thanks. Rate us. Let me know what I'm doing, what I could do better. Throw some comments down. If anyone's got other questions, Karin is, I believe, a wealth of information on the gun stuff. So yeah, absolutely. Let me know. Send me a message. Send her a message if you know her. I had a good time.
I hope you did too. It was fun.
Yeah, good.